Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 454, or at least that's what you told me.
It is 454,
Okay,
Terry.
I'm going to go with it. I'm going to have to just blindly trust you on this one.
As you should. You should always blindly trust me. There's never a time when I steer you down the wrong path.
I think our listeners, after all these years,
Would
definitely
agree.
know that's not accurate right there, right off the bat. So welcome in, everyone. Kind of a little mix mash things going on this weekend. In terms of official DGPT stuff, technically a weekend off, even though a majority of our players were traveling from somewhere in the East Coast or somewhere in the East, as in, like, even though I guess I wouldn't consider Arkansas East, but traveling from Arkansas to get over to the West Coast. Some are still en route. Some are finally arriving now. And a few of them got on a plane even, or just hightailed it right out of Arkansas to still get over to the West Coast to arrive at the Santa Cruz Masters Cup this weekend. And so little mixture of all of that. I personally, which we'll talk about, was had the pleasure of heading down to check out the Huk Central, benefiting the Mary Sunshine House. And so that's where I was at. Meanwhile, all of that is happening, and Johnny V is taking down big-time tournaments in Wisconsin.
No, I'm not, Terry.
I didn't book a guest because I expected full-blown breakdown and analysis from you tonight.
On Standing Rocks? The Standing
On your
Rocks Open?
victory.
Oh, my victory. Oh, it was so sad. I was so close. You know, as I'm going to make fun of Yuli here, though. I'm on the precipice, Terry. I'm so close. I can feel it's in me. It's right there. I'm just got to get over the hump. No. I shot, real quick, talking about Standing Rocks, two courses, West and East. The West is a harder course. East is the easy course where you should be shooting a couple under par. I shot just slightly under my rating, honestly. I think I finished 44th or 45th out of 55 or something crazy.
Okay.
Didn't pay much
This
attention.
is the MP40 division?
MP40 division, correct.
Okay.
It
was all Masters this weekend.
All Masters, which honestly was quite interesting, having an entire division of just old dudes.
Yeah.
And I'm part of them.
Our age,
and
yeah,
I'm
so
part
to
of them. Yeah. So it was cool because I got to see people who I haven't seen in 10 or 15 years. I got to play with people that I played in advanced and competed with, which was just so much fun. And I came out to the West course where we started, the harder course, and I shot a 3 over par, it felt horrible to me. Horrible. Then I went out to the East course and I shot a 3 under par, which felt mediocre because I feel like I should be shooting 6, 7 out there. And then I went over to the West course the next day and I shot an even, which felt okay, not great. It actually felt worse than the 3 over I shot, because at least the 3 over, I feel like I had some excuses. It was the first time I'd actually thrown discs practically in 9 months, and I turned a couple birdies into bogeys, so I could count like 4 or 5 strokes on one hand. Yeah, only 5 because I got 5 fingers. So that I could just easily have gotten back without. I missed like 20 footers. I turned 2 20-footers into bogeys, and that hurts. As opposed to the next day, I didn't really have many of those. I missed 1 20-footer, I think, or 25-footer. I just wasn't giving myself the opportunity for birdies. And so that overall, for the whole weekend, shot even out there, which...
How much, and I know the East course has, the property has developed and changed even a little bit since I've been there, but of that West course, which is
the West or the East?
The West course,
yep.
The tougher of the two. How many of those holes would I recognize that I've played? Is there a huge variance in since the 10 years maybe that I've been up there?
I'm guessing there's probably 3 holes that I'm not sure if you have played before.
Okay.
If it's truly been 10 years, because I went up there 4 or 5 years ago, which I don't believe you were up there with me.
No.
And there's probably a handful of holes that you don't remember, don't know. Other than that, on the East course, which is a shorter course, they took out some holes due to some water rising. There used to be a downhill, 500-foot downhill. That one's gone. And the next 2, the little dinker coming back and the dinker up the hill, are both gone, replaced with a different temp hole, so to speak, then kind of circle and 1 or 2 different ones. But overall, I love the courses. I love the combo of courses. Very, very difficult. And I realize where my game is very much lacking, and it is in flippy plastic. I have a leopard that goes very straight to hyzer, and I couldn't get anything to flip over. I couldn't get anything to stand up and turn right. And every time I tried, I tended to yank over on it. And both of those courses, you don't want to be off the fairway usually because they're relatively wooded. You get yourself in trouble. You have to toss out. So anytime I tried to power anything and get it to flip, I tended to just almost a what the F Richard it and just go straight right. So a lot of these holes I was playing very tentative, which is fine for a first event back in many, many, many months. But it just means I need to get out and practice more.
Yeah.
I need to find a few more flippy discs. I was looking online at maybe the Heat or a Sail or a Sidewinder.
You're gonna want a Heat.
I think I might.
I've got some in the car.
Well, bring them in, Terry.
They're available for sale today. Yes,
bring them in.
You should definitely try one. And I say that mostly because I have one in stock and I've got plenty of them.
It was nice
but
getting.
Also, it's a great disc.
I think it is. I mean, it's going to suit me because I am a very much an old man sissy arm now, and it was just really nice this Masters event, Am and Pro. Like I said, seeing some of these people coming up and talking to me about how they enjoy the podcast, or more specifically, a lot of them like they enjoy the live broadcast. Thinking that I still am involved, but how involved I am, they maybe aren't quite up to date as, like, oh, you got the weekend off. There's no Pro Tour event. That's why you're here. And it's like, no, I have the whole summer off. So that was enjoyable. And I had a lot of fun at Standing Rocks. Had a lot of fun staying in an Airbnb with some friends. We got, we went outside on Friday night and putted around. My calves are still a little sore from the weekend.
Dang.
Not going to lie. I found off the fairway a few times, a couple hills. It's a very hilly course. It's a ski hill that you play kind of out and around. And it's also really good for mountain biking, I guess. They were showing all the mountain biking trails. Yeah.
All right. Let's get to the bottom of this. Last week you said that there was something wrong with the mic level once we downloaded the podcast. And then others echoed that. And now there's a few people echoing it on the board. So maybe we can do some some live testing. Someone just said a moment ago that it sounded like I'm either muted or just really low or you're really hot. So before we go any further, maybe we can figure it out.
I'll bump your audio up a little bit. I had yours down because
nobody mutes me. Damn it!
I did. Terry's mic is completely off. Okay, so here's why I did that. I just put a pop filter back on your mic. And I took it off of mine, because you tend to have your mouth right up on the mic.
Plosives?
And not even so much for the plosives, but you're naturally louder than me.
Yeah.
And you get right up on the mic.
Yeah, I do.
You were right up on that mic.
Oh, yeah. See, now, okay.
So hopefully...
All right, well, let's see if we can get this figured out before we go too far tonight.
I just leveled out our audio, so we should be much better now. I turned you up to be exactly where I am. Everything looks good, so... we should be a little bit closer now.
All right. Should we do a test?
Oh, we can.
Yeah. Okay. And this is me talking at what I feel like should be normal level.
All right. This is me talking at what I think should be normal level.
Good. I'm glad we're taking care of all this now. It's much better after the adjustment. All right. Everyone's saying now that it sounds good. Thank you very much. This makes sense to take care of this now.
I always fix it in post-production anyway. I've got a tool that auto-levels it. So if Terry's a little quiet at times, I'm a little quiet or loud, it just fixes it. But you guys get the live version of this.
You get it raw.
You just get it raw.
You get it raw from us. All right. So when it's all said and done, Standing Rocks, I see Dustin Honnold.
Dustin Honnold wins. He took it down. He's a very solid player out of Minnesota.
Used to live in Wisconsin, then was in Minnesota, or lived in Minnesota. Yeah, he's been back and forth.
Okay, so yeah,
he's one of those guys that's been
where he lives now.
Yeah, and no, I'm not saying he's not there now. I'm just saying he's spent time in both Wisconsin and Minnesota throughout his playing career, and congratulations to him. And just the idea, though, of I don't want to just call it old school, because there's plenty of tournaments operating this way, but 2 rounds on Saturday and 1 round on Sunday. Was there a skins match Sunday afternoon like they used to do?
I don't believe there was, but we didn't
not
hang
when
out.
You were invited to. Okay. So 2 rounds on Saturday, 1 on Sunday.
They used to do the top scores.
Yeah, over
individual. And the gentleman I drove with Steve would have qualified for that, because on the final day, he shot, I think, a 10 or 11 under par, which was amazing in general, But the fact that after the first round, he was only like 2 strokes off of me, and he plays all the time. So I made sure to rub that in quite a bit.
Just conceptually, is it weird? Obviously, it was a little out of the norm, just even you playing. I get that. But is it a little bit weird with the fact that it's 2 rounds and then 1 round on Sunday? Just because we have grown to the accustomed, no matter where you go,
1 round
rarely
a day.
are you seeing 2 rounds in a day anymore. It feels like almost anywhere. I know many smaller events do it. I just ran an event that had 2 rounds in the same day. But just in general, kind of has to feel a little foreign to you, right?
Just
even from a working perspective.
Yeah, just a touch foreign, but it kind of all came back to me knowing that this event has actually been this way for 20 years.
Yeah.
We were talking back at the cabin how it might be nice for this type of event to do 3 single day, a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday. But the problem with that is that East course is relatively short and easy, and I don't feel like you get it just wouldn't feel like you got a lot out of it that the day that you played the East course. So I don't mind the 2 a day. If they did go to single day rounds, I'd flip a coin. I kind of like just personally the compressed 2 days because you're in and out. I don't have to take an extra day of work off. Friday's a great day to get up there and just practice. That was part of the problem, I think, why I was so sore. I told myself, John, you're out of shape. Don't overdo it on Friday. And so I was like, all right, we just played the West course. And then someone showed up and they're like, well, let's go play the East course. I'm like, all right, I'll sit this one out. I'll just walk along a little bit. And we get up to the first hole. And I'm like, well, I'll play this one. And then I'll play the next one. I sat out 1 hole.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
It was like the third to last hole. It was a turnover, longer par 3 hole. And I was kind of like, I don't need to try to crank a disc over. Which is good because then I birdied it during the tournament.
You only need one shot.
I just needed one shot.
They call you One Shot Johnny for a reason.
For multiple reasons.
Yes, 1 or 2. Let's do something we rarely do, which is there anything from last week that I'll say is either new or has surfaced? And of course, some of the biggest news that came out of last week being the Jomez Pro with the acquisition by the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Do you feel like, because we were in the very early stages of that, do you feel like there was anything else that was truly, I don't want to say revolutionary, truly discovered or further talked about or discussed, or that otherwise was newsworthy as the week rolled on?
No. It truly felt like we covered everything between us and some of the other podcasts I listened to. Nothing since then has really come out that would change anybody's mind or that is contrary or even new information about the acquisition and what's going to happen with the Pro Tour. Now, again, we haven't seen any actual production come out, but I honestly don't think that you're really going to see anything different from Jonesboro to OTB. You won't notice the difference. It's still going to say Jomez. It's going to be done by the same crew. It's not like the Pro Tour is going to swing in there and step in. At most, you might notice maybe some commercial differences, but that is even up for debate. I don't know. Because Jomez might already have obligations lined up for weeks to come or even for the entire year that I'm not privy to. So we might not notice any difference.
Okay. Before I get to a great question that came out on the board, actually I will get to it. Spock asks, is there a chance we could see some behind the scenes at Bevel when you're out there next, which will be this upcoming weekend? And yeah, I guess I'll quickly lay out this weekend. I myself have just returned from South Carolina, which I'll get into in a moment. But Thursday, going to be heading out Thursday afternoon, where I'll go to, go to Bevel. I'll go to Bend. They're synonymous, I guess. I'll go to Bend, and it'll be, dare I say, a pretty stereotypical weekend for me, except for the one huge advantage that I do like, which is the event obviously is happening on West Coast time. So that means I will be getting up still earlier than I like to get up, but it won't be at an absurd hour, as in like 4:30 or 4:45 or whatever time I had to get up for a few of the East Coast events. So with the event happening on the West Coast, with me being on the West Coast, things will feel a little bit more at normal times. So I'll arrive Thursday night. I'll ultimately probably listen to the press conference that takes place Thursday. I'll be able to actually take that in while I'm on a plane, which is great because I'll be able to play it in like double speed, so I can get all caught up on anything that's said during that. Friday morning, I'll get picked up. Probably I'll get picked up by Nate. I'll head over to the house. They'll bring me over to their house. It'll be Val and I in the morning. I think it's just Val and I for this event. I think maybe Zoe's on the ground for this one. So it'll be Val and I in the booth, and then in the afternoon, we'll have a short break, of course, and then in the afternoon, it'll be Nate and I. And I think Nate Sexton's, I don't think he's in the booth with us. I could probably look. I don't think he's playing either.
Might just have a weekend off.
That might be the case. Honestly, I don't recall off the top of my head, but I don't think this one jumped out. Maybe he is playing, but I don't think this one jumped out as one that he was particularly trying to go out and play. And it's not really, I feel like, a secret that Nate Sexton is becoming a little bit more choosy, or I don't want to say particular in a bad way, but he's becoming more particular about where he feels he has the best, most reasonable expectations to perform well and or to win and win. Playing an event like Jonesboro, I think he was pretty blunt in saying like that he just has no interest in that event, knowing what kind of shots that are going to be required in order to try and take that event down. And I guess Kelvin Heimberg, it's fair to say him and Kelvin Heimberg, a little bit different when it comes to throwing style.
Slightly different.
So that's what's going to happen this weekend. And then usually almost every day after the broadcast gets done, we, as a set of us, the three of us, usually sit around and talk at the house for a few minutes. Then we go find some place to eat. Oftentimes, more often than not, it's not Bevel. We'll go to some other establishment, and then we'll usually go back to the house. We'll talk some more there about disc golf and other stuff, and then finally I retire for the night back to my hotel. And a little secret is last time I went out there a week and a half ago, I actually told Nate and Val, I said, hey, I'm going to try to do something I've really never done here, which is a little bit of a vlog of being here for the weekend. And I said, what will probably happen is I'm going to start recording it. We'll do a whole bunch of stuff. I'll continue to fade out throughout the weekend, and then I'll never get around to really completing it, and then I definitely won't get around to editing anything. And they said, sounds great. And that's exactly what ended up happening. I filmed a whole bunch of stuff, had a lot of excitement. It just feels weird to be, and I know this sounds dumb coming from me maybe, but I don't film like Simon does, for instance. He has a very, of course, first-person perspective of his vlog and his vlog style, hence what most people consider vlogging. It just feels weird to like try and document everything that we're doing, not every single minute, but just trying to document all these different moments throughout a weekend without it seeming, I don't want to say fake. I don't know. Somehow I lose interest in it, or I lose the gumption is maybe a better phrase for it, to continue to do it throughout. So one of these days you will see a full, or maybe it'll be a mix-up of a few different trips out there.
You could do a few different trips. Because it's not like it's much different between,
correct,
one weekend's day 1 and one weekend's day 2 to 3. They're all going to
that's very true. So yeah, in fact, I could go out there for 10 weekends, and if there was one vlog that could probably encapsulate all 10, just because the routines are relatively similar. So, but we always do make at least one night where we do go into Bevel. Nate and Val owning the place is cool, but at the same time, it's like anyone else that has a job. Sometimes you want to be away from your job, even if you love it, even if you own it. Sometimes you want to be away from it at some point. So
we're getting note on the board from Robert Luster saying that Sexton's actually signed up to play the OTB.
Okay,
so
for some reason I did think he was, because I knew he wasn't in the booth with us. What I'm showing on our little chart, which may or may not be accurate at the moment, but it does show that Brian Earhart will be out on the course in the field as a field reporter, and that Zoe Andyke will be out on the course as our field reporter from the FPO side. So I was right on most of that, and great. Sounds like we'll have Sexton. All right, I'm going to quickly get into our results from...
There's a lot of results to talk about this week, and we've got a lot of events that we need to discuss.
Yeah, let's start with, maybe you know something I don't. Like sometimes it just, buttons don't work. Hey, there we go. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Huk Central benefiting the Mary Sunshine House. Let's start quickly on the FPO side of things. medium size turnout on the FPO side of things. We see that Paige Shue ultimately takes it down. She has a 2-stroke margin of victory over one Ellen Widboom Shakalaka. And then also a very much local to the area is Sarah Cunningham. She finished in 3rd. Go Clemson Tigers. I was on the campus all weekend pretty much. And well, it's just that it's a college campus, and it just feels so weird to be in a college town. I don't know why, but pretty big deal there. Lauren Lee finished in 4th. Those are your 4 cashers out of 8 FPO competitors. Again, Paige Shue victorious. And on the MPO side, if you somehow didn't watch the coverage, Michael Johansson, your champion. I'll say this. It was a 3-stroke margin of victory, but with 3 holes to go, you would have never guessed that. It really did honestly just get decided in the last 3 or 4 holes of the tournament. It was such a great battle taking place with those guys. Alan Wagner, 100% in the conversation. Aiden Scott, 100% in the conversation. Even if you do, now that you do know the outcome, it was seriously a great battle to go watch. So it is out there. It's all available. All 3 rounds ready to go. So Michael Joe is your champion over Alan Wagner. Interestingly enough, both of them MP40 eligible.
Mm-hmm.
So your top 2 competitors are both MP40 eligible. Aiden Scott, who just turned 18 a few weeks ago at the Champions Cup, and Evan Smith, who I want to say is 22-ish. And then Micah Groth is 20-ish, somewhere in that neighborhood. And Joseph Anderson, Joey Buckets, who we've talked about, who finished also in that tie for 5th. He is 19. So
you got
lots of young talent is what I'm trying to say.
But losing to the old talent.
But losing to the older guys. Clint Calvin also finishes in a tie for 5th. That was, I think, my first time with Clint on my coverage, so that was great. And then someone else I've seen who's also in that kind of age range, younger age range, Dylan Sepola. He finished in 8th. 9th place was Ben Wolf, and 10th was Matt Thompson. And in 11th, with a special shout out, he finished 11th. Normally we don't go down to 11.
But 11th is 2 1s.
And he for sure had one of them. That's right. Grady Shue. Very first hole of the tournament. He was the 3rd to tee off, so not quite the first shot that I saw, but he was the 3rd to tee off in the first round feature card. Grady Shue carding the ace. How many times did you watch it?
I watched it twice. Was I supposed to watch it more?
I mean, if you find another IP address, log in, make sure you watch it. I could use the hit on my YouTube.
Okay, because I've got ad blockers turned on. So
You're cheating me, you bastard. Yes, Grady Shue with an ace on the very first hole of the tournament for him. Awesome to see. If I'm sure some of the diehards that are out there that are maybe watching, very first hole of round number 2. Basket hit. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Am I going to get back-to-back days opening up the round with an ace? But no, just hitting off the basket. But still ended up getting the birdie. And then in 3rd round, I had a very legitimate basket hit as well. So we were out there hunting for aces this weekend. It was awesome. So congratulations to them. Okuni. There it is. National Disc Golf Course is being developed. And I think, mark the tape. Within a few years, you're going to see some high-level events taking place on this property. 75 acres. Only 25 acres roughly have been touched and used so far. This weekend was a mix-up of baskets and of potential, borrowings of layouts, and we may never see the layout that was played this weekend. We may never see that again. It was relatively short at about 5,400 feet. So the course you saw this weekend is not indicative of what you'll see long-term. They're going to have 3 separate courses on site, privately owned and run at this property, and the property is gorgeous. It's absolutely incredible. And so mark my words, within 5 years, we're going to see some high level events, whether that's a stop on the Pro Tour or a silver, event or a PDGA major of sorts for some divisions. There's going to be some high level events taking place on that property. So best of luck to Brian and the rest of his crew that are putting that together. It's going to be awesome to see. So they're off to a great start, and I wish them nothing but the best. All right, Johnny.
Let's roll through some results across the country. We're first going to go to the Discmania's 303 Open. This one is out in Colorado. Winning this one is Aaron Gossage.
Three hometown. Where's Robert from? Because Aaron, Colorado roots. Joel Freeman, Colorado. Joe Revere, Colorado. And Robert Nichols, also out of Colorado. I don't know Robert as well. So congrats.
Top 4 guys, Colorado. Joel Freeman, Joe Revere, Robert Nichols, Jake Mon, Evan Scott, Nick Hansen, Harry Chase, AJ Carey. Then tied for 10th, Nate Metzler and Paul Kranz. Over on the FPO side, Natalie Ryan wins this event by 1 stroke over Emma Arp. Natalie shot a 55 her final round to come back from like 6 or 7 down to win by 1 single stroke. And she had an ace, I believe, on one of those days as well, she posted. So congratulations to Natalie Ryan. 3rd place, Emily Yale. Tied for 4th, Deanne Carey and Amy Vrana. And then the other cashing positions we have Allison Latch turned down cash, Alyssa Pearson for 65, and Erica Weir for 65, tied for 7th. So those were your FPO champions. Do we want to talk about the event and some of the surrounding stuff, or should we save that for after we go through other results?
I think the only note that I'll really make of it is that we saw posted to social media that it, from what I gathered, is it appeared that there was a group of protesters, a local chapter of protesters that had showed up. I don't know exactly when they showed up. I know they were there at some point on Sunday, and it seemed to be around the time of the award ceremony, because I think I saw tournament director Kyle having a conversation with them, and I thought I was hearing people's names getting called off during the awards. A group of protesters, from what I could see, showed up and were protesting. That's, I guess, what protesters do. Were protesting, and then there was some heated exchanges that took place. Amy, who you had said, I know, was there having words with some of the protesters. There was just a lot of yelling. I mean, for lack of a better term, there was a lot of yelling back and forth. And then when it was all said and done, you could hear the protesters say, "Hey, I feel like we've said our piece." The police were called.
After the police had showed up and talked to them.
I guess that's true. Yes. A female police officer and maybe others, but I know at least one police officer showed up. She had a brief conversation with the protesters. I'm guessing she talked to somebody from the event as well. And it was shortly after that where the protesters had said, I believe it's Save Women's Sports I'm guessing they're a local a national organization that had a local chapter, so to speak. They at that point said, "Hey, you can," and I'm only saying this because you can hear it said on their live stream that they were streaming this, and I think you hear one of the main organizers that was there said, "I think we're good. We've said our piece, and now essentially we're going to leave." That was shortly after they had the conversation with the police officer. That's the extent of what I know and saw, and that was largely because there was a post where, their live stream of how it went down, their live stream was then all put out there publicly, and it was linked somewhere else. So that's how I consumed it. And that's, for me, that's the extent of what I know. I haven't talked to the event organizer. I hadn't talked to Natalie. I hadn't talked to anyone from Save Women's Sports. I haven't spoken to anyone else about it. I'm just basically regurgitating what I saw in the live stream. And the only other thing I'll add to that is I was just thinking personally, and this is almost a side note, I was thinking personally, I was trying to think if we've ever seen a protest or a group of protesters ever at an event before for any reason. Well, of course, this is obviously a transgender, initiative and conversation, and that's why they were there. But I was thinking, has there ever been a wildlife or a parks department, or
I don't believe.
yeah. And I talked to another very well-traveled, respectable person who's played in nearly 500 PDGA events, and he too was like, I don't think I've ever seen protesters at an event for the sake of what was happening at the event. And I'm not saying it's never happened. Clearly, I'm guessing maybe it hasn't. I don't know. If somebody in the comments knows of an example, nothing more than, I'll say in this case, almost just a side note. I'd just be curious to know what it was and when. But I've never seen or heard of that before happening. And quite frankly, depending on how everything continues to evolve with the transgender athlete conversation, this may or may not become commonplace. I can't
That's
say one
the
way or
part
another.
that I was thinking about, and unfortunate for probably Natalie and other transgender athletes in our sport. That, again, I personally, and I know the people that listen to this and the people on our board, a lot of different opinions, and we don't need to get into. We talked about our opinions, everyone's opinions. I just don't see the. I guess I don't see the point in showing up and trying to scream somebody down. It's just not in me to do that. Like, and I can understand protesters. I don't, for the most part, I think it's a valid free speech, but I feel like you're not winning people over like that. Very rarely has there been protesters, then suddenly I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, in any debate ever.
In
right?
any debate ever. So
no matter what the subject is, anywhere. Yeah, that's
I
true.
hope we don't see this at other events, but I think you're right in that we might. We very well might.
Yeah,
and because Natalie's going to play in other A tiers and possibly in a Disc Golf Pro Tour event coming up next weekend, depending on what happens tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, buckle up. We might be in for an interesting few months.
Yeah. So that's all that I can really state on said topic, because that's pretty much all that I consumed, and hasn't probably either already been said or beat to death on the subject in terms of the overall conversation. So, but as Johnny did quickly mention, yes, it sounds as if a significant day will be tomorrow, depending on when you're listening to this, on Wednesday the 10th and I will not claim to know all the legalese and exactly the details, but
She's
I know
looking
that
to
there is
file a restraining order against the DGPT, PDGA, and 1,000 rated discs in order to be able to play in the OTB Open. That is what's going to be hopefully decided tomorrow, whether it is or not.
And it sounds like there was a rush or an injunction of some sort that is why, because obviously the event that's in question specifically is for this upcoming weekend in 2 days, and therefore there's almost this, for lack of a better term, I'll say a rush to have a decision and or something decided upon because of the nature of the event happening in a couple days, as opposed to if it were happening in 6 months, there might be a different timeline to it. And so, yeah, tomorrow is essentially going to, I think, be a big day, no matter how you cut it, in favor of any given side or situation. Tomorrow is going to probably be a relatively substantial day, is how I'll word that, for any and all parties involved. All right.
Well, I mean, we're talking about it. We'll continue to talk about it. Otherwise, I was going to go into more results. But real quick, we'll talk about the fact that as part of the injunction, as part of the restraining order that Natalie's trying to get filed, there was some paperwork that was released from the DGPT. And not only was there paperwork regarding the case and maybe how they're kind of going to approach it, but there was some paperwork signed by an organization with a very long acronym that I'm not going to get into. It was more or less a women's sports, and it was signed by 33 of our FPO players. I don't want to say touring FPO players because I don't think all of them are necessarily touring players, but but I would say a good 20 to 25 of them probably hit most of the Pro Tour events. And if you're interested in reading that, you can find it in a lot of different places. It's out on Reddit. I first saw it last night on Nova's Facebook page, and I think it's been posted to Dixon Jowers on the box page. But go out, take a look at it. There are now, for better or worse, I'm not going to say either way, depending on how you look at it, there is a list of names of FPO players who are officially on the record, the court record, as opposing the transgender athlete issue. So, there's, I think there's a lot that's going to, as I said, buckle up. I think we're in for an interesting ride over the next few weeks and months.
Yeah, I think I'll just, my final point on it will be that tomorrow I think will definitely set a specific tone, and it may only be applicable to one event / one state.
Correct, for now.
Which is where it was filed. And I am not a lawyer. Johnny's not a lawyer. So there is no point in us speculating anything beyond that, because it just quite frankly doesn't matter what our take is on it at that point. I guess all we can do is 24 hours from now, there will be a lot more clarity as to how things are going to proceed. And that's none of which is in our hands.
No, I don't know. I mean, again, I've said before how I personally feel on the podcast. I would love to see Natalie play, but that's, just one person's perspective. I know a lot of people have other perspectives on this, and we've discussed this. We've had Natalie on the show. Depending on how things go on Wednesday and what happens at OTB, because I could see, we just saw a protest at a small A tier, small in relative terms to the Pro Tour event. If Natalie gets to play, I could see a much larger protest. And so I'm curious from a logistics point of view, from a logistics perspective. And Sean Jack, who is he officially the TD on record, or is he?
I think him and the other Sean Mercier are both
Sean.
On.
Okay, both Sean's.
I'm assuming those are the two.
You have to think that they're watching this for multiple reasons, but then they have to take that into account based on what we just saw. So does that mean hiring security? Does that mean hiring, what resources now, or is this a Pro Tour issue, have to go into this event, additional resources, in order to maintain any sort of safety? Because I know I believe this is on private property, correct? As opposed to 303, which was public property with an event. I believe the OTB is private property. So they may not be able to get on the actual property, but that, as we know, that doesn't necessarily stop someone from standing across the street or buying tickets to get in and then causing a ruckus, so to speak. So I just hope that, and I'm sure the Pro Tour is ahead of the game, thinking about what needs to be done just to keep everybody safe, to keep the event moving and flowing, because the last thing we need is a half hour, 45-minute stoppage for some reason. That's not not an ideal situation.
No, I mean, and it's interesting to think that just about anything, a number of things could create I don't want to say create a larger scene. That's not what I'm trying to say. Just create an overall impact, like you just said. Yeah, Swenson Park is essentially a golf course. So I know they're going to there's fencing, and it's not a public facility, and it will be a ticketed venue. Whereas the 303 was just happening at a public course where they weren't having a ticketed venue and any kind of enclosure. And then you think about some of the additional properties that then get played. You look at a Beaver State Fling in a few weeks, at Estacada State Park. You look at a Portland Open, which is at Glendoveer, I think it's called Golf Club, which then will have a certain private nature to it. So every one of these venues, and I think of them an MVP Open, which is obviously owned by the Dodge family or owned by the Christmas tree family, in order to be able to have an event there. So every venue, every one of these scenarios could play out slightly differently. I think it's a very legitimate conversation and thought process that the Pro Tour and the PDGA and the event venue all will have to take into consideration. Whatever their either precautions and or measures are, those are all going to have to be at least considered moving forward. And what your rights are, I think of, if this would have happened, we'll just say, if we rewind briefly to a memorial where you were out at Vista del Camino and we were out at Fountain Hills, that's just a very different environment than what these players will go see and what they'll go play when they're at Glendoveer on the Pro Tour. I mean, these are, no matter where you stand on it, these are all things that, like you said, have to be at least now considered and thought about moving forward. So
let's move on and talk about another event. We're going to talk about the Aspen Sports Tree Bash Open presented by Dynamic Discs. This is the 25th anniversary. This is out in Flagstaff. So some of the players that are on their way out to the West Coast kind of maybe swung through there. Not too many, but a few of them. Winning this one was Gavin Rathbun, and he won it handily. 8 strokes over Mike Lassay. Third place, Connor Rock. Fourth place, Reed Viscura, which is not a name we've talked about a lot this year. Mr. I skip it off the water at Ledgestone. Fifth place, Andrew Fish. Sixth place, Reed Kemp. And then a 3-way tie for 7th, Nick Newton, Caleb Kaplan, and Cody Wood. Congratulations to them. Moving down to the FPO home state, Jen Allen. She wins this one over second place by 11 strokes. Leah Sinagini. Did I nail that one?
You nailed it.
All right. There you go, Leah. That one's for you. In third place, Chelsea Howells, and tie for fourth place, Charlotte Christensen and Yomira Valenzuela. I got it.
I think you got it.
I think I
nailed it. Nice.
So, yep, that is your 25th anniversary Aspen Sports Tree Bash. We're going to go over now a little bit even further west and go to the Santa Cruz Masters Cup. If you haven't watched this one on Central Coast, by all means, go out and do it. My understanding is one of the best final rounds that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I called a battle on my coverage, though.
I
Can
know.
there also be a battle on that?
No,
coverage?
there can't be. So watch Terry's
Damn
coverage. It. Ignore Central
No,
Coast. Sorry,
no.
Ian.
Go watch that one.
Winning this one in a playoff, Greg Barsby over Alden Harris. Both at 12 under par, which I love that score.
Mm-hmm.
I love the scores out here at this course because it is a difficult course. De La Viega.
Which apparently has had some changes, and so at some point maybe I will get around to watching the coverage.
Just to see the changes?
Yeah, just to see the changes. The few snippets that I could read as I was doing my editing and worrying about the event I was putting out is I was seeing people having, of course, online arguments about the good or the bad to particular holes and changes. And just the fact that people were talking about it, I was like, what? There's changes? And
everything changes.
The one thing that I did read is somebody saying how there was almost 0 birdies on holes 1 and 2, which sounds crazy.
Yeah.
So it shows you how little I was able to consume because I didn't even have the time to go watch holes 1 and 2. But I did hear somebody hollering about that holes 1 and 2 were almost not birdied at all, which tells you something about
something's
their difficulty.
changed.
Yeah.
Tied for third, Cole Ridalin and Andrew Miranda. In fifth place, James Proctor. Sixth place, Matt Bell. And a very large tie for seventh with Chandler Kramer, Austin Hannum, Noah Meinsma, and Gannon Burr. Moving down to the FPO Homestake Girl. Owen Scoggins wins this one over Katrina Allen by 3 strokes. She shot a 990, a 973, and a 982. And ain't a bad day's work. She's rated 975. I think she just went up. This was 975 as of this.
Click on her. What did she go to?
I think she went to 977. Okay, I was going to say 979.
2 point.
So she jumped increase. Up 2 more points. Katrina Allen is at second place, again, by 3 strokes. In third place, coming back to the tour, Sayananda. So we're going to see Sayananda jump back on tour and hit this whole West Coast swing. And in fourth place, Amy Lewis. So congratulations to the women at the Santa Cruz Masters Cup. Greg Barsby, we all know the story of Greg Barsby and the roller ace, and I can't imagine how many times that was talked about this weekend. it just feels like the right event for him to win, doesn't it? Just there's something about this event that you're just like
NorCal. He being from Grass Valley, of course. Santa Cruz not being all too far away. Greg is just synonymous with being just an all around, of course, California NorCal guy. And you think about, I think largely too, a lot of people that have known Greg for a long time just think old school, and then you think of Santa Cruz, and the course is a little bit more old school. You have a lot more scrambling to do. The style of the course, it's not exclusively built on distance. Of course, it's for the most part, it's relatively wooded. All the hills, the terrain, the knowledge that it takes to play well there, and then to catch a break or two on top of it. You can't win without catching at least. I didn't watch any of the holes. I'm guessing he caught a good break or two, and that's not a slight to him.
Probably every round.
You just have to, because there's been plenty of times that tournaments lost because somebody caught a bad break, that another guy didn't catch, but some guy did, and a tournament kind of felt like it was lost on that bad break. So all of those things kind of culminate, and then it just becomes this obvious. It feels like Greg Barsby winning that event is just really. To some, I'm sure it feels quite right, especially Greg, but it just it makes sense. And then I go back a year now? Was it a year or two? Just last year was when Gannon Burr won it. So for starters, happy birthday, Gannon Burr. He turned 18 over the weekend at the event, while trying to defend this title. But you think about when someone like a Gannon wins it last year, you think of his long throws and his putting, and you don't necessarily think about the accuracy. And so the fact that he won it there is just a testament to all the different skills maybe that are required, and that anything can happen on any given weekend. And here he finishes in the top 10, seeing Alden finish there, really no surprise as well. It's just one of those courses that anything, and I remember it was about 4 or 5 years ago on this podcast, I said, the course is crazy because you can shoot an 11 under one round, and then you could go shoot over par the next round. And I think that like 4 days later, Ricky Wysocki did that same thing. He shot like a 10 under and then a 1 over or whatever. He had a 10 or 12 stroke swing. And that's just how things can. And you don't feel like you played that different, just like you were saying about playing this weekend. You sometimes feel like, no, I played pretty much the same. But at De La, playing pretty much the same, you could get two very different results when you're out there. And so a lot of people, of course, especially if you're old school, barking that, this is a course that we need on tour. This shouldn't, be left behind. And I don't disagree necessarily with that sentiment. The biggest challenge, as we experienced, is there's not good cell signal there.
Yeah,
and this has been talked about dating back to 2011, people. 2011, when Worlds was out there. And then a few years later, when Smashbox tried to do live coverage out there, and when others have tried to do live coverage out there, it's just not a course with where it's placed. And even though it's kind of on a hill, it's on the wrong side of where a Verizon tower is. And Verizon's been contacted. We have ins at Verizon
last year. We
still couldn't make it work.
They had Verizon reps come out with boosters. They had Verizon reps come out with, and then the live view, they ordered these large antennas. Like, imagine putting your arms together in like a circle like you were going to try to hug Terry. And that's how big these boosters are.
Some big old
boosters that connect up to the live view. And they still could not pull in enough cell signal in spots in the course that they would attempt to do Masters Cup. It's just one of those things. And now I know the Pro Tour is working on some new solutions for coverage. Some private cell towers, kind of. Basically, it's a cell. I don't want to call it a cell tower because that's not what it is, but it's a transmitter. It's a cellular transmitter that hooks up to some sort of internet connection. And I know that there were CBRS, I want to say. I forget the actual initials, but you connect it up, you create your own cell area. I don't know how it's going to work. I haven't been involved in those conversations. I know it's something that I talked to Sam, who does a lot of this stuff, a couple of years ago when Amazon kind of announced they were releasing their version. and I said, hey, this is something that could really help us in the future. And I know he's run with it from there. So this is something I don't know when it's going to get rolled out, when they're going to start doing beta tests on it. All I know is that they are looking into this. We'll get more figured out. Maybe in a couple months, maybe in a year. I have no idea. But just know that people are working on it.
People are working on it, and it's not as easy as you think.
It's not as easy as you think.
We're not paid to toe any company lines here, but if you just think a magic wand gets waved, or you just press a button and all of a sudden we have great cellular coverage at any given course, that's not the case. And if you just thought of your solution today, it probably also isn't sound enough. So we'll just repeat that yet again, because this has been a challenge for a decade, and quite honestly, it might be a challenge for a few more years for sure. I mean, just that's where we're at. Then
the last event I want to talk about before we move on to one other.
Well, before I do that, before you get to the event, I want to quickly just say, of course, the world lost just the incredible human that is John Baldwin. Yeah. That news rung out so loudly as it was Masters Cup weekend, an area and the space and the people and the time and just, John, I can't say it enough. And I know I said it on Facebook. I'll say it again. I can't dare come up with the words.
I met John once or twice at some Worlds events. I just barely got a chance to say hi to him, but he was beloved. He seemed like the nicest, most kind gentleman in the world. And I know he's come to Wisconsin once or twice to play some events. I think he played Manitowoc or something along those lines.
Yeah, he's played in a few events here, and I had known him before that, and really all I can say is I could never come up with more words than what you've seen. When you see hundreds, if not thousands of people post and say he was a kind, gracious, heartwarming, just incredible soul, like he just embodies so many of those things. And it might be easy sometimes to say nice things about people, but with John, like there's no BSing that. There's no other way to word it. Like, and the fact that if you polled 1,000 people, all 1,000 literally have the same words to say about him, just speaks to his entire life and his truth and his character and everything that John stood for and was about. And I was fortunate to know him. I've had many conversations with him. I was not nearly as close to him as a number of our other disc golf community members are, but I got to talk to him more than once, that's for sure. And it was just such a pleasure. So our entire disc golf family, I don't want to just say like the Innova family or the DGA family or the, California family of disc golfers, like all of disc golf.
He was so well traveled, and just everybody knew him. It's really something, especially if you're on Facebook and you're friends with a lot of golfers, which a lot of people are. Scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and every other post, or every post practically, is a dedication.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show how beloved he was, that there has almost probably never been a bad word said about that gentleman. And this weekend just showed the impact that he particularly had on so many people. So obviously, a big loss for the disc golf community.
Yeah. So we feel it. We certainly do. And that's all I can say. And I know somebody had mentioned maybe Masters Cup, becomes in memory, or, the John Baldwin Masters Cup. I know that was floated around with his roots there and whatnot. It wouldn't be shocking. Yeah, it wouldn't be shocking. And so I know there's also, as Johnny just mentioned, around Facebook, there's also been a couple different initiatives. But if you see one out there supporting mental health awareness, this happens to be Mental Health Awareness Month. Certainly if you feel obliged, and go out and support that in whatever way you can. And then just more importantly, love and be kind to one another.
You don't know what other people are dealing with.
Certainly.
Let's talk about the Copenhagen Open. This is what
that I did watch.
Good.
A little bit of. Yes.
Good. You got the thing I sent you. Did you?
No, it was just on. It was already on YouTube. I
Oh.
didn't need no stinking code
Well,
for
I gave you-
what I did watch. But
I gave you a code thanks to Disc Golf Stream. It was funny. Just right now, I didn't know. I kind of wanted to talk about this and then step into the John Baldwin thing, but it doesn't really matter either way. So the Copenhagen Open 2023 presented by Prodigy Disc. This is the first stop on the European Pro Tour. I got a chance to watch just a real little bit of it when the event was happening, because obviously I was playing, so I didn't get a chance to do too much. But then I went back and watched because I heard that it was such a that it had such an exciting finish. And sure enough, I loaded up Disc Golf Stream, where you can watch all of this. That's discgolfstream.com. And who happened to be a sponsor of Skip Base last week, so I gave away a subscription to our winner.
Shill.
I am a shill. I'm a shill for good products. And it looked like a fun course with really good players. It came down to, I'm sorry, I'm gonna destroy some of these names. Mari Vielman, who came back from, I want to say, 4 strokes down in the final round to push it to a 2-hole playoff with Samuel Heinonen. That might be Heinonen, because it's spelled different than UC Heinonen.
Yona.
Or Yona. Yeah.
Yona.
Yona Heinonen. Either way, it's spelt very similar. Again, apologize because I'm going to demolish these names. And it went to a 2-hole playoff, and it was really exciting. Someone hit a very big putt to win.
Damn it, don't tell me. I'm going to go watch that part.
Yeah. Mari hit like a 40-footer to win, and Samuel missed his 40-footer. Because they both, it's funny, they walked up to a 300-foot hole, and both of them, I don't know if it was nerves or what, but neither got within inside the circle, and they both had a long putt to win. But and Maury had a really good putt on the, like, I think it was the first playoff hole or the final hole to get into a playoff. It was just a lot of fun, and the live coverage looked phenomenal. Like I turned it on, and I was like, holy crap, this looks really good. So I'll say, if you like live disc golf and you can't get enough of the Pro Tour, you want to watch more of it, by all means, go to Disc Golf Stream and subscribe, because if it looks this good all season, you're in for a treat. And so that is the Copenhagen, the very first stop at the EPT. Talking about FPO, the top 2 finishers, both Estonian. These Estonians, Terry, starting to take over. Katie Alsalu wins this one over Anelli. I'm not going to bother, Terry. It would just be.
I wouldn't either.
And in third place,
Heidi
Laine. Thank you. I didn't get a chance to watch the FPO coverage, but what I can say is it's exciting. All this disc golf now that we just get to watch live. And the cool thing about this is it's on a different time. So the women, I think, are teeing off at like our time here in the Midwest, about 2 a.m. So if you happen to be a night owl like Terry, you can watch some night disc golf. And then the men tend to tee off early morning. I think it's like 7 or 8 a.m. And you just get disc golf all day long. So by all means, again, if you love live disc golf Stream, they have an English and I believe a Finnish commentary, depending. They did last year. Depending on what they're doing this year, could be a little different.
From what I saw, and then also tying for third was Jenny Karppinen, tied up with Heidi Laine. I was uploading. I was doing something at 3 or 4 in the morning. What must have been Saturday night for me, so Sunday morning for them. And that's when I got to, I don't remember, maybe it was around hole 12 or so on the FPO side. And Katie had a massive lead. It was 8 to 10 to 12, somewhere in that neighborhood. May have been even 14 at one point. I don't recall.
Wow.
It was a ginormous lead. And so obviously the conversation was who was going to challenge for the other podium spots more so than who was going to come and actually catch her. And so I had it on. Well, I was doing some final edits and other things on my end. So I only consumed the FPO side, and it was probably 6 or 8 holes or so when it was all said and done. I believe they had 1 or 2 holes left to play, and I wasn't in any suspense at that point of who was going to win. And it was like 6 or 7 in the morning whatever time it was where I was. So I was like, okay, I'm good here. But it was so interesting to watch just that live disc golf that's not put on by anyone that. I mean, I know a few of the people that are involved, as does Johnny. We know a few people, but large in part, we're not any part of that broadcast. To see it happening was just a little bit of a unique experience. That this is live disc golf, and it had nothing to do with the disc golf network or Smashbox, and so that's a pretty small, I guess, Venn diagram you would say throughout the last decade or so of disc golf that's been available in a live capacity. So. Yeah, best of luck to them, of course. What I was going to say is they had two people that were speaking English at the time. Now, they may or may not have also had, and I was watching it on YouTube. So a link was made available, so I clicked on it. That's how I got there. So I don't know what was on Disc Golf Stream. Maybe that's where they had other commentators, possibly, or maybe this was exclusively an English-only broadcast for this one. But to know that there's at least some concerted effort to have, other languages broadcast as well is pretty awesome. So I wish nothing but the best for them and the entire crew.
They're
cool.
putting together some really good stuff. And I noticed, again, I watched last year quite a bit of it, and then watching this year, I know they've upgraded some of their cell equipment, so they're kind of close to on par with what the Disc Golf Pro Tour is using. The courses tend to be in areas. Europe is covered with cellular coverage a little bit better than a lot of our rural areas here in the U.S.
Oh, sure.
So the cell signal at places can be good. They had a really good turnout as far as fans from what I saw in the MPO.
Which is no surprise if you've seen any European disc golf.
Shocking at all. And it just, the cell signal looked really good. I'm really excited to see what they can do. Last year, it really felt like it felt very much Smashbox year 2. And this year feels more like almost like Disc Golf Pro Tour year 1. Like, sure. It's just, you could see the jumping quality that they're putting in and the effort that they're putting into this. So again, if you're interested in live disc golf at all, by all means, go check it out because they're doing phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, so we'll be excited to see how that unfolds. Yeah, you've captured all of that. Is that all of the A tiers that we've seen on the pro side of things?
Any of the pro ones?
The Capital City Open in British Columbia, did that have pros at it? If so, we'll click on it at the very bottom, green one.
Oh, maybe I did miss that one. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did. Because that's what I thought. I knew we were missing one winner.
We're missing one. Yeah, but it's just a bunch of Canadians.
Hey.
Hey, the 2023 Dynamic Disc Tournament Capital Open. Over on the MPO, winning that is the Canadian man himself, Thomas Gilbert. He shot 27 under par. To second place, Mr. British Columbia, Canada, Max. I can never get his name. Regetnig. We'll go Max R. Congratulations. Third place, Casey Hainmeyer. Fourth place, a tie, Justin Zimmer, Jade Smith, and Alex Alexander. So congratulations to all three of them. All of them. Over on FPO, Julie Mowens wins this one over Gabrielle Lee. Third place, Sophie Denek. Fourth place, Laura Mason. And fifth place, Joe Henderson. Nice. Joe Henderson showing up there. I didn't realize, was she just up there visiting? Is that where she's from? She's from Canada. Mm-hmm. Okay. I didn't realize that. Joe is the co-host of Paige's podcast with Paige. I don't want to say call Paige's, but with Paige.
Approachable.
Yeah, approachable. So
would it be funnier if it was Approach Joe Bowl? Like Joe?
That's something you would do. So no. I'm going to go with no, Terry. I'm just getting a big fat no on
Probably
that
not.
one.
Speaking of co-host, this weekend, as we I think have concluded,
I'm going to be a co-host?
Nope, not with me. Somewhere. I don't know if anyone else wants to put a mic in front of you. I had the pleasure of working with one Joseph Anderson, Joey Anderson, a.k.a. Joey Buckets.
He's gotten a lot of talk on this show over the last few weeks,
Joey Buckets. He has, and I will say, in all seriousness, though, it's first of all, it's just great that someone, especially when I think I asked him that very day. Yeah, I think it was on the opening day of the event. I said, "Hey, you interested in doing commentary?" He's like, "Sure." Okay. So he was able to come over. We were able to knock out the commentary. The first day we started a little earlier. So I think he stopped by around 9 p.m. and we did the commentary on the first round, and then on rounds 2 and 3, I think we started at 11 and then back at 10. Either way, he made himself available to come out of his way to join me at the hotel to then knock out the commentary. So I want to thank him for doing that. And I'm not going to lie, it's pretty exciting to continue to meet and learn these personalities of these players. These players, you know, of course, I spoke so highly a few weeks ago, having Silas Schultz, who was willing to help me out. He was very well received. You know, and then I had Nate Perkins, who's more of a standard or a given in that who we've had.
A known commodity.
Yeah, exactly. Who does a great job. But then having, again, this weekend, a new person. And I don't want to say I'm going to like completely make that an objective, but if I did, I don't think it would be the worst thing, is bringing in these new personalities, these people that Joey has never done disc golf commentary ever before.
Dude, how hard can it be? That's what everyone says, right?
Yeah, right. And he was great. Some of these things that you or I, and now many others that have had years of doing it, you may take a little bit for granted, but to have somebody to sit down and be willing and able to commentate, and there was no stoppage. I didn't have to be like, hey, you F that up. We got to stop and rewind. You pretty much just roll with almost anything. Unless I mess it up in the first 30 seconds, it just stays in. If I mess it up in the first 30 seconds, I've named the tournament wrong, or I'm calling out the wrong round. All of that is possible. If that doesn't happen in the first 30 seconds, then the tape just keeps rolling and it's one straight shot all the way through. So for those of you that think we like sit and edit, maybe other people do, I'll own any mistakes, and I make plenty. I'll just own them during a commentated round. And I just have to say thank you. Not only was he good, but he was also willing all 3 nights, you know, just to have that consistency and to be there for me, to have another voice. Otherwise, it would have been me alone cracking a whole bunch of terrible dad jokes and puns, which I'm not opposed to doing.
Some people like that.
Some people do, but I will always take a co-host prior instead of just doing it alone. Now, if Joey, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. It was great to have him. So I wanted to get that out there. Also, I wanted to say, as some of you guys have noticed, a gentleman reached out to me about making some music. I may have touched on this briefly last week, but he reached out to me. He then has put together basically an instrumental of a beat that gets played during my drone shots. And then he also created an entire rap intro to my video.
Can I rap it?
You couldn't. Yeah, you could.
All right. Not right now. My throat's a little.
Yeah. But he created an intro. So thank you so much, Brandon. I appreciate it. And I said this before, I have to now slightly rework the intro because otherwise it's going to get talked over. And I was just kind of still seeing how much we liked it. And it seems to be well received. So I want to say thank you. And hopefully we'll continue to up that little post-production game we got going on.
Hope so.
I got producers and shit. Okay, wow. Maybe not.
That's like the 3rd time you've sworn on our regular show today, Terry.
I'm rowdy.
You were getting feisty on this show.
No, I'm really not.
I'm going to have to go back and edit this and bleep them out.
That's a good call. Good call. Do that.
I won't. All right, the only other thing we need to talk about, really, as far as disc golf news, is the Gannon Burr situation. Gannon went on social media and announced that the lawsuit between him and Prodigy has been dropped.
Is this because he turned 18?
It might be. I don't know. I don't think that's legally the right way to do it. And on top of that, as other people have been mentioning, the new CEO of Prodigy was actually on his bag this past weekend. So doing caddy work. So I don't know if that's trying to
part of the new contract.
It might
part
be
of the new clause.
That's part of the new clause.
You will carry my bag. Okay, I had not heard that. So.
Yeah, that's what I've heard that in a couple places, and then we did just see it on the board as well.
You mean Matt's been replaced? Hey guys, Matt here. He's been replaced. Schlabach?
He probably just couldn't make it to this event.
I don't know. Doesn't sound like
maybe
real dedication to me.
The CEO was carrying Matt, who was carrying the bag. I don't know. Okay. I didn't get a chance to see the coverage yet. But But yeah, so ultimately something has been settled outside of court. The lawsuit has been dropped. Gannon says he's going to finish out his contract with Prodigy, which I think we talked about a few weeks ago that was going to be more than likely the ultimate solution for this season. And we'll see what happens now next season. Because at the end of this season, his contract is out. Whether, bridges will be amended, whether they were already burned. As I kind of tend to say, money heals all wounds. If Prodigy comes back with the best contract, I have a feeling that those two will kiss and make up. If there was any bad blood, which I don't know if there is or not, or if it was strictly business related. I don't know. Yep. Show me the money, I believe is the saying.
Yeah, I'd like that.
It's gonna be interesting for Prodigy. Because with Isaac now winning a major and Gannon doing very well, those two are both
raising their stock.
Yeah, on a contract year. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be another fun off season. But you know what? We're only in May. I don't need to talk off season crap yet.
No, but I do have to. I want to rewind a couple days ago because I don't know how or where I missed this, and I'm sure one of our dedicated fans, maybe one that knows too much and/or is creepy. I don't know. I'm just gonna throw it out there. Can somebody? What did I miss about? I'm thinking of Prodigy. What did I miss about Caroline Henderson with DNFing at Champions Cup
or Jonesboro?
Jonesboro. Thank you. Wow. Okay, that shows you how much I've.
She did not qualify, I believe, for Champions Cup and did not play.
Correct.
And then went to Jonesboro.
That's what I meant. Jonesboro. I saw it, and then I didn't know anything else about it. Maybe it was talked about somewhere. So I apologize. My assumption is going to be some form of injury. I'm thinking, but I don't know if anyone knows. And I know this sounds like old news because it kind of frankly is. But as we were just talking about Prodigy players knowing that she just got signed to Prodigy, all of a sudden that resurfaced in my head again as I remember seeing that as a DNF, and I didn't have I never saw anything on social media. So maybe somebody knows.
So maybe she has some sort of injury because, as someone else said, she is not playing OTB. I don't know if she was ever registered to play OTB or
she might have been.
I'm not a. I'm not watching the registration list for people coming up and down.
You're a devout weirdo. I'm
just creeping on the registration list.
Yeah, sounds like something you do.
So, I mean, as we know, going to California, not cheap.
Yeah.
So it's people that skip OTB or Stockton and go right up to the Pacific Northwest,
which is also not cheap.
Not cheap at all. But you could go if you're going to pick or choose. If you're thinking like, maybe my budget doesn't allow one or the other. I'm going to pick the Pacific Northwest all day long.
Sure.
So
yeah,
that's just me. We'll see.
Was that Jessica Weiss speaking of not cheap things?
Ben said she was registered for everything because he had her in Skip Ace, which is the premier fantasy disc golf website.
Yes.
And he had to swap her out.
Registered trademark, yeah. That's what I thought. That's why, I thought so maybe an injury would come to mind, or maybe she's... maybe they're redoing something that had to do with their travel or their RV or something. I know that was getting worked on. So maybe there was something that became an update to that. But that wouldn't explain the DNF either. She's like, your RV's done. Oh, I got to go. So I don't think that was the case. So hopefully whatever's going on, maybe I'll just reach out to her personally. Whatever's going on, I hope everything is well. But I do remember seeing a DNF, and then after it slipped my mind, I thought, I don't know if I know a story here. So we wish nothing but the best. I think it was Jessica Weiss who posted, maybe, I apologize, it might have been someone else who said something about gas being exactly double the price. They were on the East Coast, and then they just pulled into California. No, it must not have been Jessica because it was someone who just recently got there. And it said something about they had a screenshot of or a picture of, the $6.50 gas, which, to be fair, I was just there 2 weeks ago, and I was in the NorCal area. Sacramento, Stockton area, and gas was like $5.25. So maybe it shot up more, or maybe with where they entered, it's that much more. I don't know, but and I'm not saying that's still not expensive because it is, especially when I see today that it was $3.13 here in Wisconsin to fill up.
It's gone down here in Wisconsin.
So I understand that even when you're pushing that $5 and $6 range, it's definitely more, but. Yeah, the West Coast in general, expensive to tour through, no matter how you're doing it.
Correct. And for everyone wondering, I believe I have heard that Valerie Mondahano plans to rejoin the tour at DDO, is my understanding.
Wow. Okay.
So she is as well, and it might be health related. It might be price related. You know, if you're going to come back, do you really want to come back to the West Coast if you don't have to swing, which, as we said, is really expensive? Even though last year she had a really good West Coast swing, it really, you know, I know she won Waco, but then she followed that up with like a West Coast, a very solid West Coast swing. It really put her on the map.
Yeah, up at Beaver State and Portland, back to back, right? Back to back weekends.
Correct. So my understanding is she'll be back on tour for the DDO is what she's shooting for. So we can,
which is middle of June, mid to late June.
So you can kind of just expect her out for the next month or so, and we'll follow up more then. Hopefully, I'd like to get her on the show and talk to her, see how she's doing.
Yeah,
at some point.
All right. Is there any other news that is, well, just that newsworthy that has happened in the last week here in the world of disc golf? That's not just gossip or chatter or BS. Is there any other major news?
No, I haven't really seen anything. I looked on the PDGA site. Nothing new there. No big announcements. A bunch of discs, as always, being released and approved. And that's it. As always, PDGA looking for, different job openings.
Oh, okay.
And there's a interview with Doug Bjerkes out there.
Oh, I like it.
And the player ratings were published today.
Oh, heck yeah.
I know, Terry. You get so excited about them.
I do. I thought there was an update. Somebody had just mentioned it, so it made me want to think about that. Did we see some form of update out of Paige Pierce about her return?
She's coming to OTB. I believe she said she's resting her arm because it's like a rotator cuff thing. So,
okay. So
holy moly. I just saw my rating drop 13 points.
Oh, man.
I didn't think it would.
Oh, back. Yes. MA40. Here you come again.
No kidding.
Come on.
Holy moly.
Let's get excited.
I wonder why that. I guess this past weekend was probably included.
It shouldn't have been.
I'll say
he would have had to submit the ratings by now.
Well, I got a front.
And B,
it's ratings details included.
Evaluated included.
The
Holy
899,
cow.
the 935, and the 926 that I shot.
Okay.
That dropped my rating down 18 points or 13 points down to 918.
All right.
Super exciting.
And also, in case anyone asked or was wondering it, quite customary. We've talked about this, that we have a winner from this weekend join. And with me covering Huk Central, it made perfect sense. I did not see a moment of Paige Shoes play, although congratulations, sir. I had reached out and got a confirmation back from this afternoon from MJ, who we invited to join us here tonight, which would have been great to have him again. He, however, said, I feel like this is like the Ken Climo, same response from Climo. He plays poker on Tuesday nights, and he said somehow it's been over 10 years of playing poker on Tuesday night with the same group of people. So understandably, there's traditions, there's love, there's brotherhood, and everything else. But I had extended an offer out to MJ, and understandably so. That guy's playing poker. He's just trying to double down or triple down on all the money he won this weekend, which... Actually, I don't know what their stakes are, but I don't blame him. So I just wanted to make sure that the world knew that, yes, I did, in fact, extend the offer to him. And congratulations. Just thinking, he had recently, in February, turned, you know all these?
MJ?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Don't be insulting.
I know, that's what I was thinking. I feel bad.
You always guess low.
He looks older than I think he is. I would guess 46.
Okay, he just turned 44. He's a few months younger than me and you, in a sense. So yeah, MJ 44, and the
Eat
fact
it,
that,
MJ. We got hair here.
The fact that he played to the level which he did, and he had a relatively slow first round, and then came out and really destroyed the Grand Central course rounds 2 and 3. Just incredible. And I can't say enough about Alan Wagner and the game that he played this weekend as well. Maybe it was just a money thing. I don't know why he didn't play MP40. Excuse me. Why Allen didn't play MP40. He is more recently eligible for MP40 play. I think he was saying he just turned 40. And the fact that he was a leader going into the final day, the final round, and was hanging right there. It was, it was pretty awesome to see. And some great competitive talent coming up to challenge both of those guys and then some. But, yeah, the wily old veterans doing work out there this weekend. I was going to say, now that I think about it, you could probably add up their 2 PDGA numbers, and I guarantee you they're the lower than the next guy that was challenging them. I just thought of that. So, all right. I don't have much in terms of news. Anything else newsworthy? Got a few things we could chit-chat about in the after show. Of course, if you've got questions and other conversations we need to have, we can do so in the after show. But I think in terms of a regular show, we can wrap this up.
Wrap it.
All right, folks. That's been Smashbox Podcast 254. 454. Thank you guys so much for joining. We're going to have an after show. We're going to have a giveaway. I've got some more action to give away there. We'll also talk about things golf and non-disc golf related. Hit us up in the chat. We'll make it happen. For Johnny V, I'm Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. We'll see you in the after show when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 454's After Show. It's the after show, folks. What does that mean, Johnny?
Means we get to talk about whatever the heck we want to.
As opposed to before.
I was going to say, we're free to swear in this one, Terry.
Yes. I'm fired up.
Sometimes it revolves around disc golf. Sometimes it's just questions from the board. Sometimes it's things that we've been up to, watching, listening to. If you want to talk about early 90s music or early 2000s indie rock and punk, we're here. That's what they got me the other night. The other night when you weren't on the show, I think it was literally 45 minutes of me and people talking about different musical bands that we liked and watched and first concerts we saw and things like that. And I didn't even release it as an after show. It was so one note. I just said, you know what? This is a YouTube exclusive.
Wow.
I don't want to put this out for anyone to think that they're going to get even almost anything remotely interesting other than learning a little bit about me.
No.
Nobody needs to learn about me.
Hard pass.
Tell me about it.
All right, I'm going to start with a question or two that just came in off the board. If you asked one earlier and we ignored it, you can try it again, or we didn't possibly see it. That's actually quite possible. Mm-hmm. But if you have one, go ahead and put it in the YouTube chat. That's your best bet. The first one popping up for me here, though, is from Mark Hill asking me, Terry, are you going to be at the DGPT Silver Series Cascade Challenge event? No. I believe, as of right now, the only Silver So, okay, I get it. It's not called a silver, just silver event.
It's a silver event.
Okay, the only silver
Which
event,
makes me think it's like an event for old people. But okay.
yeah, we've talked about that. Silver sneakers, walking program, whole nother story.
Silver alerts.
Yeah, exactly. The only silver event that I believe
where they all mall walk
that I'm going to be at is the one in a couple weeks at the Beaver State Fling. Philo and Ian are in the booth for that, and I am listed to be the on-course reporter. And was it on this show or somewhere else that said there's going to be a different layout to the BSF this year? Did you tell me that?
I did not, because I didn't know that.
What the hell do you know? Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing of value to me.
I ignore things I don't.
If it doesn't things you don't know.
If it doesn't involve me, Terry.
No, and I'm sure somebody way smarter out there than Johnny can inform me that I was just told that it's going to be some hybrid, which makes perfect sense. You've got 36 incredible holes out there, all of which aren't even permanent in a day in and day out basis. So whatever they're doing, I'll be interested to see what 18 then, if it is just 18, what 18 then make up this hybrid course.
A new gold layout that encompasses the entire Milo property. Which
here's my only question to that. Are they going to just are there going to be any new holes, or is it going to be cherry picking the 18 holes that make up this incredible layout, or are there going to be, say, 13 holes and then like 5 brand new? Well, I guess the Genius hole has been modified. That's one hole I already know about, which it used to be, I don't even know, what, 9 on West? I've only been there a dozen times. I want to say, and it's a temp hole, I think, technically. So the Genius hole does not have the same tee or pin or something. Something's different about that. I guess I forgot. That's the one thing I saw on Facebook that I know for sure is that one's a little bit different.
Yep,
and then there was an argument about...
It plays to the parking lot island hole now.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, so
that sounds cool.
Like I don't know much about that course, but I know the Genius hole and I know where that parking lot island hole plays
to. I can understand that, and I think the argument that immediately ensued after I saw the post was essentially boiled down to the scoring separation was terrible on that hole anyway. As beautiful of a hole as it is, the scoring separation wasn't good for it. So having it play to a different pin that's incorporating that island green, I can see all that. That might be kind of cool. All right. So anyway, I'd love to know, and it's probably out there. If I go to Beaver State Fling. Oh gosh, please be the right website. Please.org.com. Johnny, I don't know. I'm nervous. Beaver State Fling. .org. Let we go .org.
Go for it. I think you're safe. You're at least safe with the .org.
BeaverStateFling.com is not a thing.
Try just BeaverFling.com.
All right. Well, great. My computer's locked up. Now we know why.
Way to go, Terry.
No, seriously. Why is it doing this? Like, it's like my...
I don't know.
They're unresponsive, and I just keep hitting it harder, and it doesn't work.
That's good.
But my tabs don't work. Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
Let's try a new tab. BeaverStateFling.org.
You could just type in Beaver State Fling and...
that's no fun. All right, let's do a little bit of research here. We'll see if we can find... so the broadcast times look pretty standard. 9:30 a.m. For the FPO, 3 p.m. on the MPO side. All of that's what you'd expect. Tickets, caddy book. See, this has East and West caddy books. I don't know if that's all current or not.
Well, you're looking at the 2022.
So
which means that you clicked on the wrong thing.
No, I didn't. I clicked on what? Well, yeah. I mean, I clicked on what's available.
Scroll up once. Are you looking at the 2022? No, it's at 2023. Okay.
Don't you dare question my internet clicking.
You couldn't click 10 seconds ago, Terry.
That's because it
physically wouldn't let you click.
It wouldn't let me.
Mark Hill says Terry just tagged you in a post that has the map at Stumptown Disc Golf.
All right, Mark. I'll go on.
Mark Hill, thanks for the $2 super chat.
That will buy me a new internet session here, I hope.
It will not buy him a new laptop, which is what I think he really needs.
I don't. This thing, again, this weekend, workhorse. Knock on wood. Like, every render, flawless this weekend.
That's great.
It's funny how much you take those things for granted. When everything works, how much you just, okay, I clicked the buttons. It did what it's supposed to do. It was the internet connection that was very intermittent for me this weekend, and I'm happy to have released when I did. And it's funny, I also made a post this weekend about I could have released, technically, every round of coverage, I'll say by 1 a.m.
You chose not to.
And I chose not to. And I know some people then argued with me in various platforms as to, as if I'm doing a disservice to them because I wasn't releasing it right away, which is a funny argument in the first place. But just due to, I don't even want to say the business side, but just due to best practices by YouTube and the algorithms and the viewership, that if you put it out at 1 a.m. and it doesn't get a lot of traction, that's that much less recommendation it gets when everybody does wake up in the morning, and how much less they will push it when your viewership actually is showing up. There's even a chart on YouTube that tells you when your viewers are most logged in, which is a really, of course, interesting graph. And what you see for disc golfers is going to look very different from a lot of other industries.
If it were up to me, I would probably release like a half hour before my highest peak.
Well, I'm not that smart. I released it at 2 a.m. instead. I'm just kidding. I didn't. But then a little piece of me is like, man, what about the European viewers? Like, they would love a jump start, but that's only going to be 1,000 views or a few hundred views. So it's funny, some of the things that get thought about, especially when things are actually going well and you're like, holy cow, I have this done. I could actually release this. Or the fact that it's 1 a.m. Eastern time or midnight Eastern time and it's still only 9 o'clock on the West Coast. Like, some people might actually find this and click on it. No, you can't run those risks, folks. These are the regimens that we have now trained our own disc golf community to be part of. And you just sometimes can't buck that system. All right. So I got to find what this layout is going to look like. Layout for OTB.
I'm sure there's some tweaks to it. I don't know for sure. I haven't bothered looking.
Did you work the event last year? You remember? Were you pressing the buttons? Because I had no part of the event last year.
It makes sense. It makes sense that
Simon won. Do you remember that?
Yes,
Simon?
yes. I'm fairly certain I covered that.
Okay. And we've seen a couple different iterations at the Swenson Park, and I just didn't know if you had any thoughts or insight as to.
I don't because I don't. Honestly, I can barely remember the course.
Sure.
And I know that this will be the third year because the first year they had, they I don't say issues, but they had some challenges with some players taking routes that they didn't intend.
Oh, sure.
Eagle, Simon, some of them, breaking the course. So adjustments were made last year. I remember that. And I believe there are some more adjustments this year.
Okay.
Ray says, I'm not going to lie, Terry, I really wanted to watch the final 9 right after the first half was posted.
Yeah, and that became another issue of mine of when it was not only uploaded. In that case, on Sunday night, I had uploaded the front 9. It was fully loaded. I set a release time, and then I actually went to bed at like 3 or something and had the back 9 loading. And by the time I got up and got everything ready, I expected the back 9 to be released after the front 9 had already been up for a couple hours. And that ended up not being the case. It didn't fully load. And then with the spotty, intermittent internet connection, it finally got loaded. And then I set it for another time to then release shortly thereafter. And I pulled a very, very classic YouTube move. I set it just a day late.
Rookie move.
Because if you've ever worked with YouTube and you set a video, it will always go a full 24 hours
after
essentially.
You upload it.
At least a full 24 hours. If it's 3 a.m. on a Sunday night and you're trying to set it, and you're like, hey, I want this to release at 11 a.m., it will be 11 a.m. by default on Tuesday as opposed to 11 a.m. on Monday, even though you're doing it on Sunday night. So I classically did that. Once I realized that mistake, even though it was just for a while listed, it was unlisted. So if you had the direct link, which I posted, some people could still go view it, which is perfect. If you were like a hardcore fan, you could still go see it, which plenty of people did.
Wow.
But then I ultimately set it finally to be publicly released. So I'll take a little bit of blame for a longer delay than anticipated there. And this always comes back to the age-old question, which we're never going to answer, which is what is the perfect release time when you put out a video and you have front and back? Let's say they're both done. You go to bed and they're both done and ready to go, the front and the back.
There is no decision. The correct answer is when I'm done with the front 9, I better damn well be able to watch the back 9. Now, I'm not kidding.
Wow.
Because I'll tell you what, if I watch the front 9 and then suddenly it's like, oh, there's no back 9, I'm going to wander away and never probably watch that back 9. And I'm going to forget
Unless
about it.
Unless it was really compelling.
No, I'll forget.
Well,
flat out. I don't care how compelling that front 9 is, you have my attention right then. You have it. If I'm watching it immediately, you have my attention. Now, there's a chance that maybe I run out of time and don't get a chance to watch it. I understand that. But if I have the time, I want to watch it. Because guess what? The next time I have attention time, it might not be for you. When I finish watching a front 9, I want to immediately be able to go into the back 9.
Science, data, analytics have also proven if you release, we'll say them both, let's just say you release one at 11, and just for giggles, you release the other one at 11:15 or 11:30, or maybe it's 11:01, right? The front at 11 and the back at 11:05, technically 11:05, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll just use that as an example because clearly somebody can't watch whatever. The analytics largely prove then that the front 9 gets skipped.
Okay.
And that the back 9 gets watched, but then sometimes the front 9 can go almost completely unnoticed. That's the only reason why there's a question here. And I know that sounds silly to some viewers who are saying, yes, I want to watch the back 9 immediately. It should always be available instantaneously. And I'm telling you from a creator's perspective, it's funny that there's a sacrifice then that gets made because the front 9 can frequently then get. I'm not the only one that juggles this scenario. Clearly, we have other content creators that also. I've talked to Gatekeeper about this. I've talked to Ace Run.
I'm sure you have.
I've had these conversations with other producers, and there's just a fine line. There's a balance. Now you could say 12 hours is too long. You could say 1 hour, whatever. I don't. Nobody knows what that exact magic number is, but just know there's a reason. There can be a reason to it. Now, sometimes, in all fairness, you could release the front 9 at 11 o'clock because it got up at 10:52 on your system. YouTube checked it, and YouTube's like, "Yep, 11:01, you're good to go," and you release it. And then maybe you legitimately don't have the back 9 up and ready, and all of those other things. So you're just going to hit release whenever it's available. If things are going really, really good for you, yeah, you might have them both up and ready to go, and you're truly in control of it. There's other times you're not in control. You get the front 9 up, and you're like, shit, now I got to get to the airport, and I got to rely on getting to the airport. Or it's literally, I can't tell you how many times I've been driving somewhere. I have my phone on, on hotspot mode, and my computer's in the back seat trying to upload a video to YouTube. More times than I'd like to admit. So those are the times where clearly it's not an option to me. But when it is an option, believe it or not, there's not a perfect answer.
For me,
there is for you.
For me,
there's not for me.
And I think a lot of people on the board are saying the perfect answer is and again, I think you and I talked about this. Let's just say your video is 40 minutes long. Then you release it at the 30 or the 35-minute mark so that it's available when I'm done. Again,
sure. Yeah, you're saying the earliest case scenario for the very first person that might watch it the second it drops, it's reasonable to then have it for that person. I don't disagree with that logic.
Now, granted, someone like me, I'm going to watch it probably in 1.5, 1.7 speed, whatever, 1.5 speed anyway, and then it might be done before your next one is available. I get that. I understand that concept. I think I'm unique in that aspect. I don't believe a lot of people watch coverage like that. But I truly feel that the coverage, if I'm dedicating time to watch the front 9, again, you probably have my attention, keep my attention,
Sure.
and go with the back. I would like to go with the back 9 right away, but I'm sure that's not necessarily. And disc golf is a unique YouTube experience because most other creators, like average creators, not sports creators, don't have a front and back 9.
Exactly.
It's not like a part 1, part 2.
Yeah.
Most of them are going to come out like a week later or a day later, depending on the
or here's my daily vlog, and if it's 9 minutes or 30 minutes, it's out and it's
and then
done.
it comes next day. But for us, again,
Very much so.
I so want to be able to just burn through the whole thing.
Sure.
Let me burn through the whole thing, because to me it doesn't make sense to have like an hour break between.
Sure.
Like okay, what's the point? Because you're only then hurting the people who watch it in that first hour that it's dropped. That's my opinion. And on top of that,
which may be a minority of people.
Yep. And on top of that,
time, right?
If you can have it drop at a time when the before it's over, you can add in all those extra little YouTube bonus things, a little the next video preview thing.
Sure.
Like you can have all that ready and be like, oh cool, this is available for me now. Click. So then, just my opinion. I'm sure that other people's opinions may vary, but they're wrong.
Yeah, I mean, your opinion's the only right one. We all know. Carney asked, why not all 18 in the same video? That was done at one point very early on. And then honestly, it was largely done to just break up not just the overall time of a video, which some people would be like, enter our podcast, Exhibit A. Some people would be like, I don't have time for all of that. And I like the idea that it's broken up into 2 different videos, because I may watch the front 9, at breakfast, and I'm going to watch the back 9 at lunch. Again, it all depends on how and when you're consuming and who you are and what your timelines look like. But a lot of people said they just couldn't wrap their head around the concept of, hey, I'll watch till hole 13, and then I'm going to put it down, and when I want to come back, I'll be on hole 13, and because they're watching an 18 and hole 8, to me, that would still make sense. That didn't seem to be the resounding way people were doing it. And then also, it was more of a practicality for everything that I just said. You're talking about right now, an average video of mine for 9 holes is I'm just going to very roughly estimate about 5 gig. So we used to have a hard time with when YouTube, internet was that much worse. 2014, I'll say, for an example, you'd have a hard time waiting for a 5 gig video to upload. Sometimes you still do to this day have a 5 gig video upload that can be anywhere from 10 minutes to 2 hours and 10 minutes, depending on the internet you have. So obviously, if you have a 10 gig video, you have that much more of a commitment. And for the longest time, YouTube would not let you pick up or resume. If you lost your internet connection for any reason in the world to YouTube, and you were at 98% of a 5 gig video, and then all of a sudden your internet dropped for a second, or your power died on your computer, or a million other things that happened to me, you lost it all and you started over. And so that's why chunking it in the 2 9s, I'm going to say for 10 years now, has been what made the most sense. So,
and I don't mind the 2 9s because you've got 30-minute videos. I think that's a good time. Of course, with YouTube, you can, as a viewer, you can pick up wherever if you only watch half of it. But, and I know maybe this sounds capitalistic. You can put more ads in 2 9s.
You could. I mean, I feel that.
I mean, just because you get a pre-roll and post-roll ads.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. You get those almost like freebies that get put in there, as opposed to loading up an because I'll tell you what. Even if it's probably the same amount of ads, it probably just feels like more ads in a longer video. Even if it's the same amount, because you're sitting in probably one continuous issue. But that's just probably how it feels versus.
Yeah, I mean, I generally, depending on the length of the video, I generally end up having about 3 ads inserted into a front 9, and then obviously I'll put roughly 3 ads in the back 9. So it's about the same when you're talking about the YouTube ads.
And on top of that, I can understand a perspective from YouTube and creators that Guess what? You break this into 9 holes each. That's twice the views you might be getting. You know, if you have an 18-hole view and you get 100,000 people to watch it, awesome. You get 2 9-holes and you get 89,000 people to watch one and 114 to watch the other. It might truly still be the same 100,000 people, but you've literally doubled your view count. And I'm sure in the YouTube algorithm, that is somewhere in there tied into whether or not how things perform, you know, average view times, all that other stuff. I guarantee it's all part of that. So I can understand how that would make sense to break that in half or break it into thirds. Let's see 3 6-hole ones, brother. Triple your ad count. Triple your view count.
Yes. Yeah. I know you guys consume plenty of post-production, of which I consume almost none. Man, what an interesting, what a roundtable discussion that would be to have, I'll say 5 just really diehard, emphatic, like super viewers.
Mm-hmm. Get
everybody together. Oh my gosh, this is a great idea. Get everybody together and have just this really open, candid conversation about not just the likes and dislikes, but just all the different nuances. And I think it would be great from both a creator's perspective, and I use the term loosely for myself, honestly, even someone who makes this content, but from a creator perspective, and maybe even just sharing, pulling back the curtain a little bit, some of the things I just mentioned as to some of the decisions that get made as to why would you not release the the back 9 right after the front 9, all of these types of things, and have kind of that, that roundtable discussion, because I think there's probably also a lot of assumptions that people are making as to why stuff gets done as opposed to why it really gets done and why it unfolds that way. And there's multi-million-dollar industries out there that are breaking down YouTube and the analytics and the things that matter when it comes down to it. I mean, just think about some of the big moments in a given round. If I'll just make up an example, hole 13, there's an ace. Is that more or less advantageous when you have a video and somebody may or may not be making chapters, but then you have to scrub to find hole 13, or it's earmarked or bookmarked or chaptered or whatever, as opposed to if it's in 2 separate 9s. Like, there's just a lot of different ways to look at those types of things. So do you agree or disagree with my decision?
Probably disagree.
That I released Grady's ace before I released round 1's footage.
Yes, 100%. You do that.
Does it matter that it was hole 1?
No. It's an ace. I don't care what it is. Not only should you have released it on YouTube, you should have released it as a YouTube short. You should have put it out on your Instagram. You should have put it every humanly place possible.
And tagged ESPN SC Top 10.
That's not a top. No offense to Grady, that's not a top 10 worthy ace.
Wow.
Sorry.
Ouch. If Grady's shoot
was
so
like what,
dang nice,
under 300-foot forehand shot, like little.
Yeah, so
with one camera.
No, 2.
What
are you talking about?
Was there 2?
I had the throw cam, then I had the throw to the catch cam.
Oh, you're right. Yep.
Then I had exclusively all catch cam. I gave you 3 different versions.
That's right.
Two cameras.
So no, you 100% should release it before the video goes out. It should be the first thing you do when you get back to your camera, because by the time everybody knew about the ace clearly before the video came out. It was already like, oh, hey, Grady got an ace and Terry's got the footage. So getting people to, watch the ace. Now, you could make an argument of whether or not you want to try to entice people to watch the full coverage first with the ace. So,
but it's on the first hole.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Holding off on that. Say, hey, yeah, this is the video that the ace is in. And maybe people will sit down and watch the whole video versus just the ace and then they're done. But you might lose some viralness, so to speak, on the ace.
If it's just within
because
there.
Inevitably, if you don't release the ace video, some other person is going to clip
it anyway
and upload it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, look, this is just Grady's ace. I think you have to release it for your particular channel's viralness or to get the views, so to speak, before somebody else steals it. Because that would happen 100%. If you didn't release a separate ace video, somebody would have it out before you did.
Yeah, very true. And Tim says the biggest news is Grady didn't bogey hole 2. Yes, that was definitely a thought going through my mind. In fact, spoiler, he parred, and MJ said, well, you're still 2 down, which he wasn't wrong. So it was pretty funny for him to say that. And then, as I said, I think on like hole 17, which is very much an aceable hole on that course this weekend, I was like, like the hardest part about getting 2 aces in one round is getting the first one. It's kind of already happened. Like, I mean, and it's so silly that's where my mind was headed after he got the ace. And we saw a few more holes, and there's plenty of ace runs on the course, actually. And all I kept thinking was, oh man, how awesome would that be if he gets a second ace? Like, we capture a second ace, 2 aces in one round, which somebody else did this weekend. I apologize to whomever it was at some tournament somewhere. Saw it on Facebook. Had 2 aces in one round.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah,
post
like,
on that.
Getting the first one. Once you get that out of the way, you got to be thinking, oh, this is going to be a special round. It's going to be a special one.
Ray says DGN seems to have stopped releasing on-tour segments. Is Corey still working on that sort of content behind the scenes? I believe he is. I think they were, I forget who exactly they were following and getting something. And it's either at Jonesboro or in the next couple weeks. I briefly heard about it on one of the meetings that, I can't get into total detail on some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, but I believe they are still working on some of that stuff. So sit tight on that. I think it'll come up. I know they're not doing a ton of them, but I think that they are still happening, because I don't believe there is going to be an on-tour series this year. I believe it's more going to be a bunch of like vignettes.
Yes, you see him in the background a lot. Yeah, he's filming, obviously a slightly much more cinematic look and vibe and feel to what he's doing. Not concerned with necessarily shot-by-shot coverage by any means. More so individual moments and captures and whatnot. So, yes, that's why you still see him. Ray says maybe Jomez will help with some of the on-tour stuff. May or may not.
Well, I'll say this. They'll have access to all the footage.
The footage, yeah.
So that's not that they didn't before, because I'm sure they did, but it might just be even easier at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, we kind of dipped our toe in that conversation last week, is like, when will projects overlap? What resources will get used? Or will it just be a matter of like, oh yeah, we definitely have that footage. It's on our 4th camera. Here it is, and it just becomes that much easier of a process. Now, as to will somebody from the Jomez team actually go over and work on that specific project? Maybe not. Who knows where all those resources will intermingle? I'm guessing they're going to largely stay on their path. I believe they were on.
Yeah, I believe
I think
this
that's
season.
What kind of Jonathan even, kind of iterated.
Yeah, I believe this season, you're right. I don't think there'll be a ton of intermingling and changing of roles. Just, it doesn't make a lot of sense to kind of disrupt what you have right now, unless there's a really good reason to. I think you're going to start seeing a lot more intermingling next season, and maybe some changes in who does what, where people go, who records, what footage. But I think just this year, it's going to be, we're going to do the same thing. Jonathan is focusing still on the quote-unquote Jomez brand, and the guys will probably continue to do what they're doing.
All right. I read a question, something about me going somewhere that I wanted to answer. Somebody also, Ray also asked, Terry, how abbreviated/short run time could you edit 9 holes and make it enjoyable and digestible? Abbreviated short run time.
So what's the shortest length your video could be and still be probably decent?
Well, and it's funny because before I fully answer that, I'll just say, thinking about run times and when people asked about the 18 holes, we're at a point where, again, every course, every tournament, and then every team has very different styles. I was on a relatively shorter, easier course this weekend. Front 9, 29 minutes, whatever it is. I don't have a lot of commercials. I've got 20-second drone previews, and there's not a whole lot of intro to my videos. I think it's 20 seconds or 30 seconds, and not a whole lot of time to get out. Some others can be 35, 40, 45. I think another production company Jomez has a lot more bells and whistles. I mean, that's not exactly a secret. And because they have your follow flights and your player profiles and some of the other stuff that they do, their runtime on that exact same video, and I think they just probably generally have a little bit more lead into a throw.
Mm-hmm.
They've got an extra camera or two.
An extra 6 or 7 minutes?
At least. Yeah, minimum. And so it's always been funny to me when people talk about how they don't have time for, we'll say, even 18 holes of live golf. And that might push 2.5 or 3 hours if you're just if you're
just
getting
watching
so much
the
more.
lead card.
But if you're just watching the lead card and you tune in right when they tee off on hole 1 and the time they tap out on hole 18,
which is almost exactly about 15 minutes after we go live, by the way, people.
Yeah, let's just call that, anywhere between 3 and 4 hours, depending on the course itself. You're talking about some of these post productions that can push an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. To have a 50-minute round, a 50-minute 9, I don't think is unheard of anymore. So it's funny in relative terms when you think about the time commitment people say that they don't have. And then I think, well, wait, start adding up all this time. Anyway, I don't know. I've never tried to have a super fast cut. The closest thing I get to that is somebody has an incredible round and I'll just trim down their shots to almost exclusively nothing but their shots. Obviously, again, depending on how many there were, that can be as little as 8-9 minutes. Depending on what else is in there. Could I take a 30-minute if you removed, I'll say, commentary? Obviously, you could make it even shorter because sometimes you leave just a little bit of buffer on for the sake of having commentary. That would be an interesting take. I feel like you could probably trim it down to if I had a 30-minute video from this weekend, a 30-minute 9-hole video, I comfortably think you could still make it relatively enjoyable without commentary, probably at 20 minutes. I think you could trim a third of it off at least. I think maybe even more.
Yeah,
it just depends on how fast. I mean, how fast do you want to see the shots?
Yeah, you could forego
with no buffer,
drone
at
footage,
all.
and maybe just put a map up in a corner when the first person's throwing. There are ways you could definitely trim it down.
I'd be so interested to do that and to see how well received it is.
I think for me personally, because someone just on the board, Need More Input says 30 to 40 minutes is a sweet spot for him. That's not unreasonable. I would love to personally see 28 to 35 minutes.
I've got the solution for you. It's all of my videos then.
I know. I've got the solution for me. 1.5 speed. Congratulations. I can get it done in whatever speed I want.
Should I play everything in 150 speed, 150% speed it up? No, and I don't disagree. Now, here's the funny part.
Ray says remove tap-ins.
Yeah, I mean,
or tap-outs.
As I've said it a million times. I was shocked when shot-by-shot coverage started to gain traction. 2013, 2014, whenever it really started to gain traction, because I vehemently said, who the F wants to watch a 60-foot approach shot or a 10-foot tap-in? And yet here we are watching them.
Everybody does, apparently.
Here we are watching them 10 years later still.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I didn't see so-and-so tap in. What happened? They were 3 feet away.
4 feet away.
They dropped it in.
And the only reason why I feel like the main reason we still watch tap-ins on post-production is so we can watch the score update. Because otherwise, when would you put that player's score updated? You and I and someone else. So,
call.
Guess what? I hit a 30-footer. Congratulations, me.
Yeah, the score changes
and someone's sitting underneath of the pin.
They're at 9 under. It's going to be for birdie.
And you cut that out.
And then maybe you don't see a graphic or an indication that says birdie.
So
they'll get to the next hole and it'll say 10 under.
Yep.
But somebody may not make that connection. I mean,
unless you did it.
You have a valid point, John.
I know. Unless you did it on
as soon as it lands.
When it lands, you could just say, you could have a special graphic tapped in for birdie or something, and then you don't show it. Now that's very difficult. Probably that's more thought process in the editing process, probably. Mm-hmm. But that's the nice thing about live is that we have started cutting out those tap-ins. Sure. If it's still hard. It's still hard for us because the last time I did an edit, a switch, there were times I was like, Mo, do you want to get rid of these tap-ins? And he's like, I'm like, let's do it. He's like, okay. And there are times when Mo's like, we don't need to see these tap-ins. Like both of us were pushing at different times because sometimes you just feel like you need to see them. Mo always, no matter what the scenario, wants to see the tap-ins from the leader. If Isaac Robinson is up and he's winning, doesn't matter. You're going to see that tap-in. For me personally, I don't necessarily need to see that. I don't always necessarily need to see the leader lay up a 35-footer that he doesn't have a chance at because, there's a headwind and it's up a hill and they just laid it up. But Mo will specifically, you will see every leader shot. That's Mo's philosophy. And he's the producer. I don't argue with that. So.
Yeah, I keep trying to think of if there's anything that would be of value to go back. Because, again, most often, if you have a really hot round, you may trim out the other 3 players. Here's the person that shot the course record, the 1,100 rated round, whatever. And you make that super easy to do. I'm just trying to think if there's ever a good reason to go back. And we'll take the 6 videos I released this weekend. Is there any reason to go back and create even a shorter version of any of those that weren't a record-breaking round? I just think if anyone would find any value in something like that, because maybe you didn't watch it at all, and now you're like, oh, Huk Central? Oh, I could front 9, 15 minutes? Maybe they would watch it now. I don't know. Yeah, interesting.
I've always wanted to see, and I know you don't necessarily do this for every player, but it would be really awesome, is just individual rounds. After the event is finished,
sure.
If you had...
I've definitely worked on some of that. I hear you.
Infinite time. Even, obviously for record-breaking rounds. Someone shoots a 1090 round or, gets 16 out of 18 holes or whatever the number is. You cut together a special for them. Me personally, I think it'd be kind of cool to see an individual round for each player, almost regardless of how they played. Now, that's a pain in the ass, and do you really want to do that for someone who shoots 2 under when everyone else is shooting 12 under? Probably not. But I do think that, think about this. How great would it be to be able to go back right now and watch Paul McBeth 2018 Maple Hill, like round 3 or round 1, just Paul. What are the, how cool would it be to have, that was always my dream with post-production or with live, cutting each one of those and being able to go to DGN and just say, you know what? I just want to watch. I want to be able to search Paul McBeth.
Sure.
I want to be able to search all his rounds, and I just watch just McBeth do McBeth cool things. I don't want to have to sit and watch. I don't want to have to sit and watch James Conrad shoot an average round with Paul McBeth's awesome round. I just want the McBeth stuff, or I just want the Ricky stuff, or whoever it is. I want to see individual rounds for every player, almost for every event that we have access to. And I know it's not realistic. I truly know that. But I just envision a future when I can just do a search on DGN's website and I can say, awesome, let me see all McBeth at Maple Hill. Let me see all Ricky at Texas States. Let me see all Kelvin at Jonesboro. And I just see them. Like, just sit back and be like, oh yeah, that was a really cool round. Oh, look at that shot he shot.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and
I don't necessarily want the story of the round. I just want to live their rounds.
Sure. And Spock, he's not suggesting that every single person is filmed. I mean, of course, in a perfect world, every single person.
Yeah.
No, he's just saying rounds that are already filmed to be able to go back and do that. Not necessarily, hey, I want to be able to watch what Reed Frasquira did, on 2017 on the fourth card at Ledgestone.
No.
Of course, again, in a perfect world, you'd have every shot by every person of all time. Got that. But just even taking what's already been filmed and even breaking that down and compacting that, I think there's obviously an opportunity there.
Yeah. I'm obviously Spockheiser. That would be ideal, but I know none of this stuff is realistic, just based on man hours.
Yeah,
person hours, whatever you want to call it. But that was always my.
If anybody
dream
wants to
and
do some
fantasy.
editing for me, you reach out. I got plenty of footage I can hand over.
Need more input. Says that sounds like a job for an intern editor.
It really does. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, Jay, think about that. Being able to say, sit down one night and just say, I want to watch all Macbeth at Worlds and just watch him from, because you got to figure, Terry, how long is a single person's round? 7 or 8 minutes?
Yeah, anywhere from 7 to 10 minutes, probably.
So you could sit there for 3 hours and watch 2 to 3 years probably of Worlds rounds, maybe even more. And just sit there and be like, cool. Like, oh, wow, that was a great shot from him. And that's pretty cool. Like, oh, yeah, I remember this shot that he threw. And, oh, this is where he bounced it off the fence and slid under, the basket. Stuff like that I think would be really awesome. We'll get there someday, maybe. I don't know.
Once I learn the meta tag, then meta log, then we'll get it figured out. Okay, it's not going to happen for me.
Not for you.
Not for me. Not for me. All right, Johnny, you have something we should be giving away? Why don't we start lining that up? We'll get our Patreon action given away. I unfortunately just returned home to a box of returns. And it was an international box, which, of course, is a little bit frustrating. Ultimately, I guess you would say it's our fault, but it was a Patreon subscriber from somewhere internationally, so I think it was a $26 postage fee when it was all said and done, and it came back as undeliverable. I don't remember the name. I'll try and reach out to him once I look up his email again, but unfortunately, and it's so crazy that those were sent out months ago, and it just showed up this weekend.
It's our Patreon disc?
Yeah, it was it was the pair of them that had gone out for the year and showed up this weekend back at my house saying undeliverable. So
we'll have to reach out to somebody.
Yes, we certainly will. I just wanted to throw it out there. So please, 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 this goes for your annual, if you're part of the annual giveaway, or if you're part of everyone's part of, technically, of the weekly giveaways. You're eligible every single week when we do this. Please, just if you can, take a moment, go to your Patreon account and enter in a correct address, or make sure your address is updated. Not only so that you get your product, but also so that we're not just throwing away money to USPS or wherever. They may need it, but we need it more to not waste. So please make sure and go out there and keep your Patreon
up to date.
Patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
That's how you're eligible for our giveaways every single week. And depending on the level that you're at, you get eligible for maybe your mini picture here in our mini studio audience, or maybe the yearly Patreon supporter disc. But as we say every week, and by the sounds of it, because we announced it last week, we got a lot more people that went the free route this week. Normally we've got 2 or 3 regulars, but now we have I count 7 people who jumped on.
Wouldn't it be easier just to give like $1 a month than to make sure you go out there?
Time, Terry, is everyone's thing.
I mean, so whatever you want to do.
Smashbox.tv/weekly giveaways. Remember, you need to sign up for this every single week, because I go back 1 week's worth of names and I copy them into our list.
Or to be eligible on your own without having to do anything extra, you just simply support us at even a $1 a month
$1
level.
a month.
Or $1 a week, whatever you want to do.
That's like basically buying us 1 beer a year. Just if you would see us at a bar and you'd be like, Terry, Johnny.
Like, no, you stupid a-holes. I'm not buying you any beer.
Well, you wouldn't buy me a beer, but if you would, if you've ever thought, I'd love to run into Johnny and Terry at a bar,
I don't think anyone.
And I would buy them a beer.
This is a bad analogy, Johnny.
And I would buy them a beer.
Let's use something more practical.
By all means.
If you think you're going to lose 1 disc this year, and instead of losing that disc and replacing it, you'd rather put money towards what we're doing. That sounds okay. Whatever, however you
any analogy you want. It's pretty simple. $1. It keeps independent creators like us moving.
We're independent thinkers here. Nobody holds us back.
Nobody holds us back. 148 people this week are eligible for our giveaway, Terry. Is there anything special that we need to do, or are we good to go?
No, I think we're good to go. I've got some. I continue to have some sweet. Well, unless you take the last of the heats, I have a few more Skyline stamped heats.
I might take.
And
some
I've
heat.
got like 9 other molds with that. I did. You guys would be so proud of me. Someone reached out to me and said, "Do you have any 2015 Ledgestone Glow Flex Buzz?" I said, how many dozen do you want? Someone reached out, and sure enough, when it was all said and done, after doing a few minutes of digging around, it's sometimes difficult to go.
Your
spot
filing
sections.
system is maybe not as accurate as it could be.
I have a general idea, but yes, it's not pinpoint accurate, especially spread out.
It's
over
all
a
in your
few
mind
places.
palace.
Exactly, which sometimes there's an earthquake. And I ended up finding a few from a few different locations. And when it was all said and done, he settled on 5 Flex Glow Buzzes. He wanted pink. I was able to instantly find 3. And so 5 Flex Glow Buzzes, and then 1 Flex Glow Buzz OS, which he also didn't even realize he wanted, but he did. So 6 discs were shipped out, all from the 2015 Ledgestone drop, of which I have still hundreds of various models. And but I managed to lighten the hive, lessen the hive by
just a little
6.
bit.
And you know what?
You pushed them out of the nest. You let them fly.
I love occasionally being that resource where someone says, I have this oddity, this rarity, this unique special release or disc that you may or may not have your hands on from a long time ago. And I love knowing I have 38 of those, and I can let a couple of them go today. But they're not on any kind of fire sale.
Well, no, of course not.
They're... Yeah, so we struck up a great price for them.
All right. Whoop, that's not what I wanted to push. I wanted to go here.
All right, you go there. So anyway, I let a few of those go. Little piece of me left today. And if you do need a Comet from that year, that was the first year of the TI Comets. And I love Comets.
I love Comets too. I used a Comet a ton this weekend. I have a very nice yellow Z Comet that I have, which goes very straight for me.
No,
with just
yellow.
With a little bit of turn.
Yuck.
Which I flipped over once into a headwind, and then I've got a beat to crap Z Comet. Or I'm sorry, X Comet, not a Z Comet. I got beat to crap X Comet, which is a hard flip. If I need something to turn fast and get around a corner, I've got one. I've got one of those.
Well, if
so
you
right
need
now,
a TI Ledgestone Comet, that's what I'm talking about. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful run of them, and I found a whole box, which I was happy to set aside the way I did. And I know I have more than just that box, but there's one box from front to back of nothing but these beautiful TI Comets, and for the right price, I could let a few of them go.
For the right price, 148 people eligible. Terry, what number should we draw?
I like that it was my second time covering Huk Central, so 3 rounds of it for May 4th is when I went. So how about the number 2?
The number 2. All right, our first number is 78. Terry, are you going higher or lower?
Oh, it's right in the middle, like almost as middle as it gets.
Almost.
79 would have been, huh?
No, 74, but
yeah, I'm silly. You're right. Oh.
You're normally way better at
I know,
quick
and I had
math
to think
than me.
about that for a sec. Holy cow, yeah. I will say, I don't know. Let's go. It's going to be higher. It's going to be higher than 78.
All right. The next number is
Yes!
86.
So right again.
Way to go, Terry. You win nothing. 86. I sorted them by first name today.
86 me.
86 is Kurt Bimler. Congratulations, Kurt Bimler. He is a super supporter at the $3 level. We
Heck
like
yeah,
Kurt. So congratulations, Kurt. Terry will get you something out of his thing. He's out of South Elgin, Illinois.
I like it. I like it, Kurt. We'll have to get something out too. In fact, that's funny. Some of my discs went to Illinois today, the ones I was just talking about. So thank you so much. We appreciate the support. All right. Let's see if there's anything else on the board before we cut out. Comments are fun. I agree. JVD, where those Pro D Wasps at? So many Pro D Wasps.
Do I have any Pro D? I don't think I ever had any Pro D Wasps. I have a Pro D Buzz. I had 2 Pro D Buzzes with one of my favorite stamps of all time, which is just the old Discraft basket. The old one with just the little swirl with a swoosh. It's just a basket and a swoosh. It doesn't say Discraft. It's just that particular portion of the stamp.
Wow, Carney says, I've been throwing Glow Champ Shark 3s long enough to kick out the under. Glow Champ Shark 3? How long those been around? Few years at Ledgestone, I had Dixon Jowers making 50 plus AD jokes about live coverage on commentary. 50 ad jokes? Is that ad? Is that dad? I don't know. Do you have any lightweight pink buzzes? I've got a few thousand buzzes. You'll have to. We'll have to take this.
Define
this
lightweight, because
Yes.
Discraft hasn't really done a ton of lightweight. Like if you're talking like 150, 160 stuff, they haven't done a ton of that.
Yeah, but if you're talking like 167 to 169s,
Those are
that might be. Although the most recent ones that I've gotten have been largely on the heavy side.
So this weekend, as normal, Randy Shukar, who runs the event, he had a selection of plastic to pick up. As a pro, you got 1 disc for your player's pack, and as an AM, you got 2. And it was mostly Discraft and Innova stuff. And I didn't know what to get. Like, do I get something that I've never thrown before? Do I get something that I know? Like, do I just grab like a Destroyer? Do I grab a Force? Something like that. I went and snagged an Innova something. It's like a 7-speed.
It's kind of got like
a flippy,
thick.
It's domey
rim.
Yeah, it's domey. It's got like a -2 or -3 turn. Because I knew that after playing the practice round that my turnover game is not where I want it to be. I wanted something to flip. I didn't get a chance to throw it. I know nothing about it, but it is now part of my collection. I have an Innova that I'll probably get out and practice around with at some point. I have no clue what it does.
I mean, the guy in the commercial threw it right in the basket.
He did, didn't he? That's what it does.
I'm going to film you. It's going to be your first ever throw. We'll get an Innova.
That's not the that he does that. Isn't that the J?
I don't know. The Charger or something. No, I thought it was. No, I
don't think so. Because that
commercial's always on mute when it
know,
plays for me when I'm in the studio. So I don't know for sure, but I thought it was an it. Somebody can clarify for us. Flippy. All right. Well, sounds like that's what you need.
Oh, that is what I need, because I clearly can't flip anything over right now.
Ray says, Terry, is my disc in a box a venture that you are able to make a profit from at all? Yeah, if it wasn't, I would quit. I would quit doing
rolling in
That's not saying much, because I'm not smart necessarily. I do turn a small profit on the production of these boxes. Of course, lots of, believe it or not, research and development.
I like to call them disc caskets.
Disc casket.
We call them that?
But they're not, dead on arrival?
I don't know. I just thought of it, so.
Okay. But yes, Ray, my disc in a box. Now keep in mind, I'm also ordering them
in large bulk.
I was just thinking
by the pallet.
No, more like by the 5 to 6 pallets.
Yeah, well, that's still by the pallet.
It is, but I thought you're not singular.
Oh no, not singular.
No. Let's put it this way: the last time I ran them, which wasn't that long ago, I had 15,000 run, and that's not something that fits in, in a pickup truck or even in my Honda Element. Like, you're talking big trucks, vans, that type of stuff, box trucks. Yeah. It's kind of a big ordeal, but it's just so fun, because I knew today, even when I shipped out discs, obviously I use them, and when I ship out discs to people, I just know that at some point, or anytime I get a disc from someone and it comes in a box, I don't want to say 9 out of 10 times, because also you could get them from another buddy of mine who I went in on with them, but you ultimately have just shipped me something that I helped design, which is
feels
kind
really
of
cool.
Weird. When all of a sudden I get a disc that whether I want it on eBay or somebody sending me something and it shows up in a box, I know literally that it's the mold that I helped make, or the die cut, whatever, that I helped research and design. And that's kind of cool. And then of course I take it, I end up putting a disc in it and then shipping it to the next guy. It's awesome, because sometimes you'll see a little remnant of the the label that's been on these. Sometimes there'll be stickers, old stickers, new stickers, or whatever. Of course, people are usually peeling off their addresses. But the beauty in these is that they continuously get recycled. And I know that hurts my business that they get recycled, but I love it because I used to buy bubble mailers by the thousands. And then I would get pieces of cardboard, which were a pain, and I'd use those. And some people would recycle these bubble mailers, but just due to the sheer size of them, they only get recycled so many times because they get ripped off or torn or cut. And then eventually they get thrown away. Yes, this box is only going to ship so many times, but it still at least eventually will also then get recycled. So for all of those reasons, I do like it. So yes. And I'm rich. I'm rich because of them.
Rich beyond your wildest dreams.
I make tens of dollars on my boxes. It's really just an excuse to get a little bit of a workout every few months when I'm making massive orders. That's how it pays me back. And I pass that along. Nothing else on there, Johnny?
I haven't seen anything on here. No.
All right. Well, if that's the case, then I'm ready to call it. You don't have to let it linger. For Johnny V, I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. Thanks for tuning into the wild and silliness here of tonight's show. This has been podcast 454's After Show. Hope everyone has a good week. OTB action this week, and we'll come and talk about it probably with the winner next Tuesday night. We'll see you then. You step inside the Smashbox.